Chair Kimbrough,
Here.
Vice Chair McQuarrie, Member Burge,
Here.
Member Mozingo, Member Nori, Member Schaefer,
Here.
Member Wiggins.
Here.
A quorum is present.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is an opportunity for public comments, so this is kind of, if you got an agenda item, we hope you would give comment during the agenda item instead of now, but this is still an opportunity for public comment. Hello, Juan. Does anybody want to make public comment before the meeting? This is your chance.
I just wanted to make sure, you said you'd rather have us give an agenda item, make the comment at the agenda.
That's preferable, but we don't restrict it. Yeah. All right, because that way sometimes people will listen and have a response sometimes too. Anybody? One. You come back, get into the mic. Any one of the mics, push the button, I guess, huh?
Good afternoon or evening. My name is Juan Guzman. I used to be open space manager many years ago when the program began. I have to go to another meeting, and that's what I want to testify now. So I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much for the awards. That is something that is really meaningful. And I wanted to say that Eric Imbar, who I just saw in the audience, I have a chance to say hi, was my dearest friend for many, many years. And I use that in the big sense of the word. He just did so much work for open space. The same for RCI. When we began the program, we didn't have the expertise, and RCI did. And they were incredible in providing me guidance and helping me out of many sticky situations. So that work is really, really appreciated. I also want to take the opportunity to address the conservation easement that it will be later on your agenda. I began working on that 300 years ago. So yes, I am very glad. I have the opportunity to read the easement on masochist. Once into this kind of work, you never let it go. So I have the opportunity to review it, and I was very pleased with the way it's worded and the provisions we have, including one that we may not have to use, but if we have to, we can, for the ability to place trails in the property. So that is really great. I also wanted to address the general plan or the plan for Centennial Park, and I'm very much in favor of it, and very much in favor also of the bike park. So thank you so much for the good work. I don't have much more to offer, but if any of you ever have any questions about way back when, please feel free to call me. Thank you so much, Mark.
Thanks, Juan. Those are important words. Thank you very much. Oh.
I had something, Mark. Hi, everyone. I wanted to come up briefly before the meeting. Marina Lovejoy, Senior Natural Resource Specialist for the record. I want to speak on behalf of Erin Larson, our volunteer coordinator, and let you all know that our annual volunteer appreciation event is going to be this Saturday. This Saturday, the 25th, from 3 to 6 p.m. We are hoping to have that at Silver Saddle Ranch, but some of you might be aware we're going to get some weather this weekend. We do have the lobby at the community center reserved just in case we need a backup plan. So I hope that you all can make it. We'll be appreciating all of our volunteers that have made such a big effort this year. There'll be free food, there'll be activities, the rangers will be there. They're going to lead an interpretive hike. If we're at Silver Saddle, and maybe an interpretive dance if we're here, who knows? But anyways, you all are invited, and there's flyers on the back table.
Thank you. Yeah, people in Nevada don't have umbrellas to go to rain events, so planning another building is a pretty safe thing to go for. Anybody else want to come up? No? Okay, good. We'll move on the agenda then to possible action, approval of the minutes. Does anybody have any changes to the minutes, or can I get a motion?
I move to approve the minutes of 8/18/2025.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, call for the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Any abstentions? Mary wasn't here, so she's abstaining. So one abstention. All right, thank you. Now we move on to meeting items. And the first one is a welcome and introduction of Glenn Martell. And Jen, you're in the loop here. You're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jennifer Budge, Parks and Recreation Director. I just wanted to welcome our new city manager, Glenn Martell, our new boss. He has a great history in this town and was part of the effort that helped pass the Quality of Life Initiative. So I think he'd like to introduce himself and say a few words, and we're so happy to have him here.
Thank you, Jen. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the commission, or committee, sorry. Commissions, committees, been getting to meet a lot here the last 3 months. So, well, first off, thank you for the invitation. I appreciate it. And first, secondly, thank you for everything that you all do, sitting up there on the dais and taking a look at all these great programs that get to come before you and set the future for Carson City. Juan reminded me as I was visiting with him back there, I think some 19 years ago, if I'd go back and look at the old appeal, I could find the date. But we actually did the first property transfer from the Casey Trust up in the north end of Silver Oak. And out of that deal, working with the Casey family and working with the Open Space Committee and everybody back then, the city acquired that little tiny piece of the V&T rail property there and got a transfer of 77 acres on top of the eastern portion of Lakeview Hills. So I kind of forgot about that almost 20 years ago, but Juan reminded me of that. So to Juan's comment, some things take a long time to get where they should be. And as Jen mentioned, I was a part of it back in the day when John Burkich actually had my chair. And we were talking about quality of life back there and back then and what that might look like. And being a part of the community back then and talking about it and seeing where it is today, almost 30 years later, it's quite impressive. And I've said that in a bunch of meetings. And I think when you look at what Carson City has to offer in the open space field, when you look at all the opportunities across the city, west, east, south, north, water, trails, improved trails, rough trails, what we connect to, where you can get to, I'll put it up against any city, let alone against any city our size. I think we excel at that. And again, I thank you and all the people that sat up there on the dais and sat in the audience and helped us get where we are some 30 years ago. So I just wanted to get in and say good evening and introduce myself to the couple I don't know up there. I know a lot of the folks here and even in the audience. You have some good people getting some awards. I think I hadn't seen Eric in quite a few years either. And Eric and I did a lot of work back together as well, some years ago. And it's good to see everybody here getting recognized for their hard work. So that's about all I have for everybody this evening. I look at the plans that are coming up. I was at the Parks Commission 2 weeks ago or last week, whatever that was, and seeing the master plan for Centennial come forward and looking at what's going on in Riverview. Again, back in the day when we lived in Riverview, you used to go run that trail back then, and it looks quite a bit different. And what Jen and her team are doing out there with the plantings along the trail are impressive. So please continue the good work, and thank you for everything you've done in the past. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have or anything that might be on your mind.
Any questions? No, we're very fortunate to have somebody with leadership role that has a real understanding of open space. I hope you ride a mountain bike too, so that we can make sure you have that ability in your back pocket too.
Well, I think, back in the day, I remember we were talking about it, and my thing then, we had some people that would come up and say, well, I don't want that, or I don't want this, or I don't do that, or I don't do that. And I just remember talking with the other group of people that were looking at putting together. So that's really not the point. The point is that we have all of these opportunities within the city, not all in one place, not necessarily all at one time, but we have all these different opportunities for people to take advantage of what they might want to do. You might mountain bike one day, maybe you ride your horse the next day. I don't know, right? But all those things are available to us. And again, I think that is a huge benefit, not only to our residents to enjoy and their quality of life, but also all the people that get to come in town and enjoy everything that Carson City has to offer.
Thank you.
Thank
Being
you.
a good champion.
Have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Glenn.
Next on the agenda is a couple of awards. So I'm going to flip my mic around so I can stand up front. All right, well, thank you. To introduce this program, last year we started a program to acknowledge some of the help that this open space program's had in Carson City. It was all about this community from the beginning, voting as a tax that allowed this all to happen. But we have had all these years, like 19 years ago, we just heard, years of people supporting the trail and a lot of their personal time involved and expertise that, like they said, they didn't have the expertise. One was relying upon the community to help them. So we're starting to acknowledge some of those folks to give them credit for that. And I say right up front, as we all know, they didn't do it for the plaque. They did it because they loved doing it and like giving back to the community. So, but it's always nice when the community is acknowledging the fact that these people give that kind of time to make this program successful. And if you give a plaque, then they're kind of on the hook for a while too. So every day they walk in, they'll be in their office going, So these people too are also yes people, which makes the world go round. When they're asked for help and support, they say yes. And I think that's really important for these programs to be successful. So the first person I'm going to acknowledge is Eric Ingbar. So you can come up, Eric, come up, say hi. Eric has to go to another meeting. Probably said yes to some other group, probably. He's active on other committees in this city. So I really like Eric, just like Juan said. I met Eric when we were working on the Carson River Plan, and Carson City did not have GIS capabilities. So it's critical to have a GIS person involved with any planning, especially on a river that goes all the way through town, and try to put that pieces all together. So I started with that. Then the open space plan, he was heavily involved with that. And then totally gratis, the trail plan that this community did as a grassroots movement, he was totally, what kind of a trail plan can you put together without a GIS map? It's like the key piece right here. He gave his time, his office, staff support. I mean, he was just wonderful. So this person really needs to get credit for all this type of work. So he gets this award to recognize and appreciate a company that has given substantially. The company's you. He owns his company. It's called Noman, if you've seen it before, that has given substantial time and demonstrated significant, exemplary, dedicated service toward the mission and goals of the Carson City Open Space Program. So thank you, Eric, very, very much for your commitment to this community. A well-deserved award, sir.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you, members of the committee, and most importantly, thank the community, because this doesn't happen without the community will for all of this to take place, for there to even be an open space program. So, thanks very much.
Thanks a lot. And then, Eric, there was an interview. I was researching the websites, Googling, to see if I could see some information. And he had an interview with somebody, and they asked him, what do you regret the most in your career? He says, opening up his mouth. And then saying yes, essentially, after that. So he raises his hand. He regrets that the most, but I don't think so, because he keeps raising his hand. But that we greatly appreciate. Thanks, Eric. This one. Wrong one. Let's try this one. The next one. Oh, that didn't help the audience out there, did it? The next one is for a company that is integral and a major part of this city since I've been here, 25 years. I knew of their existence first when they came up to San Harbor and did a plant study, gratis, in the dunes where the music festival at Shakespeare takes place, because we were losing the plants, the oak that's all around there, and we were looking to see how to save the plants and what needs to be done, and they did moisturing. That's not even a word. Whatever that's called, where you use these gauges to determine the amount of moisture in the soil and stuff. So actually, a lot of things came out of that, and they ended up saying that the sand was neutral and they could move it anywhere they wanted to. So, which is unusual in the basin to move anything. So, because there's no nutrient value to it. So that's when I first met them. But since I've been in this community and worked active, this company has been. Why you come up, Joe and Bruce, while I'm talking, I guess, instead of. And Joanne just walked in the door over there. So have big, happy smiles on your face. So I can't speak enough about the fact that the expertise in engineering outfit, what it does for the community. I knew them from my state parks career, so then I also became very involved with them down here as far as the open space program goes. And really appreciate the fact that part of their company's DNA, or there's another word I can't think of, where they give to the community. It's even on their website. They volunteer for the community. It's part of their whole program is they need to participate in this community as part of what they do. So Bruce was president of this board for years, plus one of the leaders in the beginning of this whole open space program, goes way back. A very highly respected person for the open space program. Joanne sat on the board for 4 years. Joe, I don't know if you sat on the board or not, but. I was on Parks and Rec. Oh, you're Parks and Rec board. See, they're out in the community all the time. So the expertise that these folks bring to these types of programs is indispensable, just like Juan said, who worked with them for years. That they support these activities, and you can always get them on the phone, or they're actually actively involved on the board. There happens to be another gentleman right now that was involved with. Are you still working on this guy? Yes, sir. Yeah. So that's well deserved to get an award to put on their wall for the work that ICI does. I had nothing to do. Well, you'll notice I didn't invite him up. No, I mean with the selection. Oh, no, he didn't. Actually, that was a secret conference with me and Lindsay and Mary, all to be kept wrapped in secret for years to come, but you are the winners here. So that's this award to recognize, appreciate a company that has given substantial time and demonstrated significant exemplary dedicated service towards the mission and goals of Carson City Open Space. And good old Lindsay picks out pictures for us, really high quality pictures. So she personally gets involved with this process to make sure you get the right picture. I didn't share your picture, but hopefully it matches what you want right there. So I guess we'll get a picture the best we can. And a thank you for years of, cover your face.
Thank you, Mark, and I'm sure Joe will have something to say too, but I just want to take the opportunity to thank the committee. I was fortunate enough to be in Carson City when the whole open space initiative came about, and we were involved actively in the campaigning for that and in the fallout, if you will. I was one of the original members of the Open Space Committee. And it was both Parks and Rec. My son and my wife were both directly involved in the swimming team. And the swimming pool was one of the first things that was built with the park side of the taxing or the sales tax increment. So I really appreciate what the committee has done and the leadership. And the Board of Supervisors has always been very respectful and very supportive of open space. It's a wonderful attribute that Carson City has, and it's slow, and we've had committee members who just couldn't take it. They needed to move faster. And if you knew the personalities, you'd understand. But it's just keeping at it and keeping going, and Carson sees a huge benefit from it. It's something that I'm very proud of, and I know Carson City is. Jennifer and Lindsay and the staff, Greg and others have really made it happen. So thank you, Mark. I'll pass this to Joe so he can talk if he wants to add anything. Or Joanne.
No, just thank you, and I really enjoy my opportunities to work with the city. It's some of my most pleasurable projects for working with the open space.
Yeah, I won't take a lot of time. I just want to say thank you. It's really a privilege to work with the city. I've done it in a number of capacities. When my wife and I came to Carson City almost 30 years ago, we were looking for a place where we could be a part of the community. And we were lucky we found it. And I was even more lucky when I ran into a firm called Resource Concepts, who had the same ideas in mind that I had. And it's just been an honor. And it's fun to see all the people that are on the boards, all the people that come to these meetings, and that just care about the community, whether you're here to praise something or here to say I'm concerned about something. It's all an important part of how the city moves forward. So I'm just happy to be a small part of it with Resource Concepts. Thank you.
needed this for our new walls.
Yeah, we talked about
We
that.
do
yeah.
have some empty walls.
They're, for those who might not know, their building burnt down. They totally rebuilt it, and they just had a ribbon cutting probably 2-3 weeks ago, I guess. So that's. Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Greg, can you come up and help me? You know, I've been very active in trails on the planning side for Carson City, and I spent many years with the Tahoe Rim Trail and did a lot of trail building, but then I went into the paperwork side of it. So I stayed on the paperwork side of it. I didn't go out and work on the trails as often. So the people who work on the trails, I had nothing but the most respect for, of all the hard work they do, and love it. And I've seen two things. And when I was with the Rim Trail, I saw it, and with Muscle Powered, huge group of people that put huge amount of effort into getting trails built at no cost to the taxpayers. None, zero, zip, nada. The Rim Trail was almost entirely built with volunteers, but there's some sections that weren't. So I haven't had the privilege to meet Ward Knox. Mouse. I'm sorry, Ward. See, I butchered your name right off the bat. Can you come up, sir? I mean, I know what these players are, having worked so much with them in the Rim Trail. They're the backbone, and everything about these trails being built is from the volunteers and their efforts. And when they have expertise, they're worth $1 million. So I'm going to let Greg talk a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit about Ward. So Ward's commitment to volunteering for trails goes way back before I started in this position 8.5 years ago. He goes way back to the Ashton Kings days and the first, working with Jeff Potter and a few others on the first alignments for the Capitol Tahoe Trail. Ward is, when it comes to layout, design, construction, and maintenance, second to none. And Ward was, he took the lead on construction of 2 bridges for the Capitol Tahoe Trail, which was a big project, and it involved spending many, many nights up in a very remote location to get that done. And since Capitol Tahoe continues to be, involved continually on with projects, he's going to be one of the key people that will be undertaking a new Sea Hill Trail, which we really need. And so we're really glad to have Ward as part of the Muscle Power team and in our community volunteering for trails continuously. So, yeah.
I guess the only thing I have to say is thank you to Carson City for the opportunity to do this. It's been great fun, and we got great trails out of it.
Yeah. Pleasure to work with you all the time. Yep.
Thank you. Ward, here, let me shake your hands. I won't goof your name up next time. Are they here?
Don't think so.
Well, we'll talk. There's another award given out that I have no familiarity with, but their program I do. And their family is well known for more than a few generations up at the lake with their wagon rides in the winter, and they're doing some stuff at Sand Harbor too, I think, with wagon rides. I think that's the same family, I'm assuming, the Border family.
Must be, yeah.
Probably. So I'm going to let you talk about why we gave this award out.
Sure. Lindsay Boyer for the record, Open Space Manager. So as part of our awards program this year, we really wanted to recognize the Borda Land and Sheep Company. This is the group that we've been working with to do the sheep grazing on the west side of Carson City. You all are probably familiar with. We started that program in 2006 following the 2004 waterfall fire. Super devastating fire for Carson City, burnt pretty much the whole west side, and homes and lives were lost. So in an effort to avoid a big devastating wildfire like that happening again, we started working with the Bordas, who bring in thousands of sheep every year and graze those hills to reduce our overall wildfire risk. So we're very thankful to them for that partnership. It's a no-cost partnership for the city, so that's basically, thousands and thousands of dollars that Carson City has saved by working with them and their generosity for being part of this program. So they couldn't be with us tonight. We'll get a chance to get them their awards separately, but really wanted to recognize them on the record for everything they've done for open space.
I'll go back to my regular. It's great to have an audience tonight when you're giving awards away too. So that worked out great. So next item on the agenda. For possible action, discussion and possible action regarding a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors to accept the conservation easement for the Old Woods Ranch. Lindsay and Juan had spoken a little bit earlier about, so his comments come forward to that too.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Lindsay Boyer for the record. I am very excited to finally be able to bring this item before you all. As you can see from your staff report, there is a long, long history that has gone into the planning for this particular project for the conservation easement for Old Woods Ranch. Planning goes back, what I could find, all the way to 2015, possibly even before that. So, you know, everyone's been talking tonight about how sometimes things move slow, and that's okay, because sometimes they need to move slow to really, you know, get the best project that we possibly can, and get all the partners and key people where they need to be. So tonight we'll have a presentation from our partners, Nevada Land Trust. They are here tonight, Alicia Raban and Samantha Wagner, and they'll be kind of walking us through a little bit of Conservation Easement 101, a bit about the history. I know some of you have been out to the property, some of you haven't, so it'll be good to give you a little bit of refresher. And I just wanted to recognize and acknowledge Nevada Land Trust. They've been with us from the beginning on this project, and they've been critical in coordinating with the family. There's tons of liaisoning that needs to go into this. They've secured funding, and they've really been the one to kind of keep pushing this towards the finish line. So I so appreciate their help. And with that, I will invite Alicia and Samantha up for the presentation. Do you want me to drive the?
No whispering.
Good evening.
Hi, Alicia.
Nice to be back. For the record, Alicia Raban, Executive Director of Nevada Land Trust. And we've put together a few slides to kind of help frame tonight's decision. Hopefully you find them helpful. So thank you for your kind words, Lindsay. It's really incredible. I've been doing this work for a minute, about 27 years. And working with Carson City has truly been a highlight of that tenure because of the hard work and vision of the city, because of the support of the voters, the professionalism amongst your staff. It really is wonderful to be able to partner on various projects. So thank you for the opportunity. So just to sort of center us in this discussion, we are talking about Old Woods Ranch, the 130 acres in red on this map near Highway 50 as we're heading up toward Spooner Summit. Of course, you're well familiar with your conservation easement on Horse Creek to the north, and then, of course, the city lands that you already own in blue. Anything else about the location? No, we are obviously in the Clear Creek watershed here. And moving on, we're going to come back to this map a couple of times as we talk about what this conservation easement looks like. I know you have the draft of the easement in your packet. I know you've seen several variations over time, and it is absolutely a process. And I like how you brought up that some things take a while. And this is absolutely one of them, because you really are trying to hit that sweet spot between meaningful conservation and a landowner's private property rights to use and enjoy what they own. And so you find that sweet spot. You talk a lot about the vision for a piece of property. You understand the history, get very, very familiar with the resource values that you're seeking to protect through a conservation easement. And Old Woods Ranch is certainly a very special place for sort of where it sits in the watershed, potential for future trail initiatives in the vicinity, and continuation of agriculture, preservation of some very interesting history. The list goes on and on. And fortunately, when the list does go on and on, it makes our job easier to try and attract the funding required to do a conservation project, whether that is a fee title acquisition or if that is a purchase of a conservation easement, which of course that's what we're doing here. So what do I have next? Oh yes, all of the talking. And I don't know, some of you may be in this. I forget which of many field trips this was, and discussions. I think we were mapping zones in the picture on the left and then kind of reviewing map with owners and partners in the other. But this led us to the, fortunately, a $5.5 million project, that's the overall budget, for 3 conservation easements. And we have not only the 130 acres on Old Woods Ranch, but it was connected so that we could be competitive with 53 acres in Douglas County, Upper Clear Creek Ranch, and 317 acres on the southern end of Washoe Valley, McEwen Creek on the McCleary Ranch, which is actually the old List Ranch at one time, now known as McCleary Ranch. And so together, these represent some very unique opportunities to protect forested lands, to protect the health and functioning of forested lands. And fortunately, the Forest Legacy Program, thanks to funds from the United States Forest Service and a program administered by the Nevada Division of Forestry, $4.1 million was awarded at the end of 2021 for these 3 conservation easements. The match required for this project is 25%. Fortunately, we have the project has received a grant award from Conserve Nevada of $682,500 in the most recent round. And then Nevada Land Trust was able to work with one of our major donors, and we received an exceptionally generous gift from the Greg Nelson, Warren Nelson family, $500,000 toward this project. The amounts of each conservation easement, the value of each conservation easement will be based on appraisal, and we're not there yet. The project, working closely with the Nevada Division of Forestry and the Forest Service, we were on the cusp of our initial appraiser meetings about 3 weeks ago. So you know kind of where we are. The program director with the state said it's like treading water, and I think that's an apt description. So we're ready when we get the green light to move forward to appraisal. We'd still very much like to, and we are working really hard to close this easement, provided, you all agree to accept it by the end of this calendar year. So the 4.1 million grant award has been sitting on the table for a while, but conservation easements tend to take 3 to 5 years. So we're still kind of within that range. Most of the work has been done already. It was done earlier in the year, prior to June. Again, we're grateful to the family at Old Woods Ranch for their patience and their commitment to sticking with this for so long and entertaining this really remarkable, I realize that it's being purchased, but what drives a landowner typically to participate in a conservation easement purchase is love of the land. And that's really central to that family. And here we are, and it is exciting to be this far along. So they are anticipating helping with a modest gift of value, but again, we need our appraisal to give us the numbers that lead us to close. So, thank you. This is from higher up on the 130 acres. You can see, looking down towards Carson and the big meadow area where kind of Old Woods Ranch first sort of opens up. Of course, it had some historic fire there, but if you start to look closely, you see a lot of young trees coming in, and that and the potential for maintaining and improving sort of this healthy forest environment is what is largely behind that grant award. The meadow area is used for grazing, and it's gorgeous year-round, particularly in the fall. Lots of water. You can kind of see here one of the streams coming down. That's a very wet meadow in many areas. And it's essential that, for protecting watersheds, that these kinds of areas are allowed to do what these kinds of areas do. So I'm going to kind of weave in the next part of our, what I thought was shorter, presentation about conservation easements, kind of a little bit of a 101, but then sort of specifically what you have found within the pages of that draft conservation easement that hopefully will go to the Board of Supervisors. So at its very most basic level, conservation easement is a restriction placed on a piece of property to protect its associated resources. When we went to land trust school, and we're still in land trust school, but and the conferences that sometimes Lindsay has attended as well, we learn about conservation easements as part of this bundle of sticks of property rights. So private property rights, we kind of touched on this earlier. Use and enjoy, you can transfer by sale, gift, you can subdivide, develop, use, enjoy, whatever. Whatever is your thing within allowable local regulations. When you create a conservation easement, you're basically taking those couple of sticks at the bottom, and I usually just focus on the right to develop, and you are handing that to a qualified conservation organization, sometimes it's Nevada Land Trust, or a governmental entity that does such things, you all, for safekeeping till the end of time. These are perpetual, so they run with the land. And it is, and we'll talk a little bit more about this at the end, but it is the responsibility of the owner, as you do like with Horse Creek, to monitor and steward the terms of those easements. Because that is sort of the, I don't know, the sacred oath that you take when you are, and legal, clearly, that you take when you hold a conservation easement is you are promising to enforce the terms of that easement in perpetuity. So we'll come back to that in a minute. But I think, you know, you're giving up something, right? You're giving up these, in the conservation easement, these prohibited uses. You can't subdivide it. You cannot transfer the water off. So those are kind of the basic prohibited uses that kind of run through most conservation easements that are done these days. And everything else is kind of tailored to the program, to the property itself, first and foremost. If we cannot sort of reflect a landowner's vision, their ag business, whatever it is, if we can't reflect that in the conservation easement document alongside the protection of a stream corridor or, you know, grazing lands or a historic site or something, then we don't have any conservation because we cannot come to that agreement. So, legal agreement, as I said, binding. Landowner receives tax benefits or payments for giving up those development rights or other land use rights. We talked about enforcing the terms, and we talked about how it's permanent. Nevada passed, or March 1983, the ability through NRCS 111.390, the ability to create these conservation easements. And you'll see this referred to in the recitals for any conservation easement, sort of what is that, what is the enabling legislation that allows us, right, to do such things in this time. Benefits of conservation easements, voluntary, partnership-driven, remains in private ownership. Therefore, landowners are still paying taxes. This is vitally important, particularly in, you know, more rural communities. So it stays on the tax rolls. It's a long-term partnership with the agency or conservation organization holding it. It's cost-effective because you're able to protect the resources and not buy the whole thing. So when we talk about restrictions and reserve rights, you know, you may have some public access areas, like we've talked about. There may be the ability to kind of site a trail at some point. And you may have the ability to you know, continue grazing, but maybe not along this corridor, because we want to do some stream restoration, something like that. The conservation easement should be, right? They have to be drafted well, and they have to be monitored and stewarded well to hold up in court down the road. And so you have to really specifically identify what you can and cannot do. So what can you build? Where can you build it? What kind of management practices are there? With these forest legacy easements, there is a layer of sort of this activity that is prescribed by the Forest Service through Nevada Division of Forestry. So each of these properties has, and will soon have, an updated forest stewardship plan that looks at fuels reduction, dealing with noxious weeds, other kinds of vegetation management issues. And so you'll see in the conservation easement itself, we will refer often to that document, which will be updated, regularly over time, whereas the conservation easement will not change. So the zones that we have identified with the landowners for Old Woods, we have the recreational area. It's the one in purple. On the left, we have the caretaker area, kind of the teal at the top, up on the corner. And then we sort of have the homestead area where we, you may have seen earlier drafts that referred to this as two different ones. We had a homestead, so a site for a home, and then the agricultural operations. You have the corrals and barns and so on in that particular area, but combine those to create one. Okay. This is the part of that homestead area. So there is a limit across the entire property of impervious surface within the easement, which gives the landowners the ability to have some flexibility as they are redesigning a barn in this area. They can't put a barn in the middle of the meadow. That has to go here. They can put their house on the other side. Can't, it's pretty clearly outlined, I think, in the easement itself. Go ahead. This is a recreational area for family gatherings and that type of thing that is called out separately. Go ahead. And then this is from the caretakers area where the family asked for the ability to potentially site a caretaker's cabin up here. I want to make the point that as you read in the easement, everything in these three zones must conform to code. Things change over time, but it's pretty clear what what the values are that we're protecting, and any changes or modifications that are suggested within these zones must never impair conservation values and follow all of the terms as outlined in the easement. Monitoring and stewardship, is so vital. And, there are some conservation easements elsewhere in Nevada that are not monitored as regularly as they should be. Because it is vital to maintain that relationship with that landowner. Someday, if the land is sold, that easement is still in place. You need to have the relationship and the conversation with that new landowner. Review those do's and don'ts in the conservation easement, which they see because it is recorded. So when they go to buy a property, it should come up in their search. But looking at the costs of that are always a challenge. Do we all have the capacity to monitor those lands that we hold? It's an ongoing question, I think, for everyone. And it's important to do it well. So, is there anything else that you want me to cover, or shall we?
I think that was a really good comprehensive overview. We could take any questions the committee may have.
Start down, Jay. Got anything?
Yeah. My question is, and I think you touched on it at the very end, is just the capacity to monitor this. I've seen your reports you've done, which are great for Horse Creek, but it's a lot of work. And so just to double check, you are adequately staffed to monitor and enforce this.
Yeah, Lindsay Boyer for the record, Open Space Manager. Always a good question, always a fair question to make sure staff have capacity. As you mentioned, we are already monitoring Horse Creek Ranch. which is directly next door to Old Woods. Right now, the monitoring for Horse Creek takes about a half a day. So with a full day, we'd be able to monitor both at the same time and then put together a report. So we do feel like we have that capacity. If we were short-staffed or something, we also do have the ability to contract that out if needed. So there's multiple options there.
I was going along with Jay, but I just wanted to say that from what I've seen of the open space program with Carson City, you have done a remarkable job. You do your due diligence. I know you are juggling so many different projects, but you rarely, I don't know of any time you've ever dropped the ball. I'm very comfortable with going with this easement, and I think it's so important, and I think if there's anybody in this state that will do the due diligence and take care of this, it's this program.
Good comment. Sam?
Thank you for the presentation. It was great, very informative. On the map that adjacent to the recreational area, I remember when I went on the tour a few years ago. I don't know if it was yourself or the homeowners that made a comment about the thinning of that forest. It was either done by in conjunction with the prison. We had the prisoners do that work, or it was in conjunction with the Forest Service. Is that still going to happen is that tied to the easement, or is that just something that would come with monitoring and maintaining the property?
Yeah, great question. So Alicia had mentioned that there will be a forest stewardship plan that's associated with the easement. That basically gives the prescription for how the forest should be maintained, deals with, weeds and other natural resource issues. And so there will be a plan that comes, along with the easement. And then I think what you might be referencing is when we did that tour, we noticed that on the Horse Creek Ranch side, on the other side of the property line there, that they had some significant kind of encroachment, forest overgrowth issues. So we've been working with Nevada Division of Forestry on that to get that forest stewardship plan updated for the Horse Creek Ranch side of things, and ultimately have them be able to go in and do some of that work. I know that they're pretty busy, and so if for some reason they're just not able to get to that, we do have some backup recommendations to make to the landowner, other ways that they can go about getting that work done.
Okay, thank you. And I just wanted to say, when we did that tour, Mark, a few years ago, I was just blown away at the beauty of this property, and the fact that this easement has been taking almost 10 plus years, I would say, is just a testament to what you guys have done over at the Land Trust and just the family in general. Kudos to everybody, and I'm just really proud of all parties involved, for how much you've gotten done to this point.
I'm kind of new to the board, so I did not go on the tour, and I appreciate the lesson. I'm a land junkie, and so I really appreciate that. I just for the sake of others and for my own self, I'm just clarifying that once again, this is a conservation easement that doesn't provide for public access or use. This is still private property. It's one of the bundle of sticks that you're talking about. And I don't know, I haven't read all of the details, but my understanding is that this doesn't mean that the city now can. There's some discussion about trails, but it is that the grantor may, which is the property owner, may decide to build some trails. And if they then, provide access to the city for trails or access through there, they may do that. With regard to development or not being able to develop, you said that any development would have to be in accordance with the current code. There was some discussion about how many accessory dwelling units or accessory residential buildings. I don't know if that meant accessory dwelling units when they're called residential and not just accessory structures. And that's just Carson City code language. But the number of them in two of the separate areas, I think maybe the homestead area and maybe the caretaker's quarters, like 3 on each of those areas could be accessory structure. And I'm not debating the particulars of the agreement right now, but my question is if the grantor of the owner wants to come in and say, hey, we'd like to put some of these accessory structures, now we have to abide by fire code. And so now we got to put in a road. We have to have fire access. And now comes into play the whole, I guess my question is as part of this 10-year process been the vetting out the 2% of impervious area that was called out in the easement versus what could be developed by the grantor in the future on this project? Was that flushed out? Was that just penciled out or whiteboarded? Said, okay, if you're going to do this many, you got to have this kind of road. I'm sorry for
You're fine.
that question.
For the record, Alicia Raban, Nevada Land Trust. At close, we create a baseline document with Lindsay that captures the current conditions of a property, including what is, at close, considered to be impervious surface. So that would be some of those hard pack roads that you kind of see going from the yellow kind of across the meadow. That includes like the corral areas that, you know, where you have pretty hard packed dirt. And then you kind of can factor out what your total remaining impervious surfaces are, which can be distributed, and I don't have the language directly in front of me, but for the home sites, the accessory dwellings that are being referred to are, particularly in that homestead area, those are going to be your barns and corrals and maybe a she shed or a man cave or a shop or whatever, a sauna, I don't know. But there's flexibility provided alongside the residents that can go there. All of those accessory buildings are not residences. That is pretty limited. So I believe that the current zoning would allow, just generally before the department looks at the specifics, up to 7 home sites on this 130 acres. But, you know, we have some slopes and we have some other factors that would determine that final number. But, like, there are no residences planned at all for that residential area. That's just like a seasonal, lightly utilized area. As you see in the details of the easement, caretakers, residents up on that top improvement area, if you will, should be pretty modest as well. But the baseline will determine where we are at close, and then that will give us what the 2% impervious surface is, what it really looks like. You had asked also about trails and one other item, which was
the number of dwellings, and you spoke to that a little bit, but I think there might need to be some clarification, or I just need to read more, because an accessory residential building doesn't match up with Carson City's current development code. It's either a residential, it's an accessory dwelling,
right,
or an accessory structure. And so as a dwelling unit, meaning you could put a home, you know, a little home or whatever, an accessory dwelling, and they're limited by size. And so it's just the number of them that were talked about here.
right.
Was that allowing the grantor to be able to go in there and do some accessory dwelling structures or some some dwellings, which would be a residential building, a residential use, living.
We are in the
quarters.
process, when you get to this point in the conservation easement, there are going to be some small edits and adjustments that are not necessarily material to the easement, but in the case of this particular area, I can see that we can look at this, at the definitions that we're using to make sure that it's clearer.
And the only other question I had about that was, does it become Carson City's responsibility if there's a development plan that comes forward, meaning planning staff, to make sure that it meets the provisions of this easement agreement? Or does that come back to us?
Yeah, Lindsay Boyer for the record. So similar to what you saw with the Horse Creek Ranch, there was a proposed improvement on that land. The planning division reached out to open space staff, knowing that there was a conservation easement over that property. We had been tracking it as well. And so at that point, we inserted ourselves to ensure that the tenets of the conservation easement were being met. Since we're kind of the keepers of the easement, we're the ones who are most familiar. So it's definitely a partnership between us and planning for them to know, when to bring us in. And that's why, recording is important, recording deed restrictions, making that information available in multiple locations so that, someday when we're all not here, that is still codified somewhere. And to answer your question about the trail piece, and Alicia, please add to this, but the trail access component was something that has been important through the development of the conservation easement. Carson City wanted to retain the ability to potentially put a trail through here to make some pretty important trail connectivity between the Ashton Kings Trail and the Clear Creek area. As of right now, to get that alignment that would require the use of Old Woods Ranch would also require easements with other private property owners, and we don't have those easements at this time. But again, since it's a in perpetuity document, we did want to put in something that allowed for those discussions to happen in the future. So no trail is proposed right at this juncture, but the easement does allow some of those latitudes.
For the record, Alicia Raban, Nevada Land Trust. I just want to mention that the family has been willing to talk more about the trails, and we tried to reflect that in the current document. So I just, we wouldn't ever see something right through the middle, but they were absolutely and continue to be open to something that does not necessarily negatively impact their use and enjoyment of the main part of the property. So we've worked with other landowners on other projects where we've been able to site trails like along an edge or over a hill so that the house is not visible and it's signed appropriately. So, but we're grateful that the family has seriously considered all of these angles and decisions that they've had to make. I believe there are 13 family members who are engaged in this conversation. And, yeah.
So I have a couple of comments, and first of all, I don't know if there's any family members in the audience, but I really want to thank very, very much, and how much we appreciate the opportunity for this program. We have one of the best people with a stellar reputation for working with Land Trust, Alicia, another award winner from the State Trails Association. She's got her fingerprint on a lot of really cool projects, and this is one of them. That's why she's been working there 27 years, because it takes 27 years to close it. And they're not going to let her leave until he closes some of this property. So I just got to make it clear how actually appreciative we are for that support to move this forward. And we are gaining a good understanding of why it's been taking so long to get along. Juan will be here the day that the ribbon's cut, I know for sure. So, and then when you write the check, does IRS come to play on that, or is there some convenient discount system in place because it's a conservation easement versus an outright cash sale thing.
For the record, Alicia Raban, Nevada Land Trust. Are you talking about on the part of the landowner? I think that depends on their individual financial position.
Oh, okay.
And we encourage all landowners, or all of our partner landowners, to work closely with their own attorneys, obviously, and then tax advisors to help guide structuring these transactions in a way that works. And that may be, okay, we're going to, not in this case, but break it up over 2 years or, 5 years or whatever. So I am not an expert on the tax consequences of receiving this kind of payment. However, as I mentioned earlier, the family is prepared to offer a modest portion of the value. You get an appraisal, and then out of that, they agree to hopefully sell for slightly less than fair market value, and the delta, the difference, is a tax. It is absolutely a donation, and there are enhanced tax benefits for gifts of conservation easements, of portions of conservation easements, as well as conservation lands.
So it takes a lot of people with a lot of experience to bring all this together. So my next, just a comment, Marina's sitting behind Lindsay there, and we've seen her report every year of the other properties. The name just left my head here, that she does every year on the properties next door to the woods. And we've always given her huge accolades for what level of review she does of all those items that play to the conservation easement. So I know we're well prepared. So there's a heck of a track record. And so Marina can't leave either for 27 years, so we can get this done. So the only other question was, and when you appraise it, not you, but when you get an appraisal, you'd like to appraise it maybe, but that wasn't going to work. How does that work with best in use, and how does it? They just look at it as an ag feature, which is maybe less than any opportunity for residential or anything like that. Could you clarify how that appraisal works just a little bit for info?
For the record, Alicia Raban, Nevada Land Trust. Conservation easement appraisal is actually 2 in 1. And so an appraiser looks at the highest and best use prior to the placement of the easement, compares that to the value with the easement in place. So now you have these restrictions. And the difference between those two, that delta, is the value of the conservation easement. So according to Yellow Book standards, which are the federal appraisal guidelines for any projects having to do with federal funding or agencies, as this does, the Yellow Book appraisal process has certain guidelines that it lays out, and that appraiser does have to look at what could sort of anybody with this property be able to do. Could they get those 7 home sites in there? Can they, and then compare it to the after. And so that's kind of in a nutshell how the appraisal process works. It's looking at comparable sales and in the area, of which there are a number at this point. So.
Thank you. Is there any other questions from? I'm just really pleased the Nevada Land Trust has been a partner in this. Thank you, Alicia, and your shop does wonderful work in the state. Thank you.
Mark, I do have a follow-up, and it's just my own ignorance, and I apologize to everybody. But because it sounds like you guys have been working on this a lot, but we're going to make a recommendation to push this up to the supervisor level and to recommend that they accept this easement document as it has been written. we don't have an appraisal yet. Are we forwarding to them a dollar amount of what Carson City is going to be paying for this, and how much is Nevada Land Trust? Do we have an accounting roughly if we had an appraisal today of $4.5 million or 3.5 or whatever it might be? Do we know?
Excellent question. Lindsay Boyer for the record. So through this process, we weren't sure when we started out. We didn't even have the grant funding when we first started out. So it's been kind of an evolution as we've gone of, what the final contributions may end up being from Carson City. And fortunately, because of the amazing fundraising efforts that Nevada Land Trust has done, there will be no matching funds contributed from Carson City for this effort.
Good? Okay, so if we have no more questions or comments here, I'm going to call for public comment on this item. If anybody wants to come forward and speak to this. There you go.
My name is Jeff Schultz. I'm one of the 13 owners in this property. And I know that it's been going on for an awful long time, 2007. So yes, it does take a while. So just want to thank everyone so far involved with this because it has taken so much. And the members of the committee up here too. It is a long process and we're still there trying to do it. It's one of those properties that it's probably a great idea for Carson City as they already have the one with Horse Creek.
Yeah, Horse Creek.
And this one is just right next to that same jewel. It's all part of it. Granddad just didn't have the money back then to buy the whole thing. He bought it for $9.
$9?
And he didn't have $9 when he bought it.
There's a story there.
There's
You'll
some
have to share
history.
that. When
There's a
you-
lot of history that goes back into that, but as you can tell, it's gone up in value. So yeah, we're excited about it as well, and we've been working with the whole process here, and it's greatly appreciated. Greatly appreciated. So we're just waiting on appraisals now, I think, something like that, to see where it goes from there.
Sitting in the bleachers waiting. I would guess you at least doubled your value of that $9 there.
I think it has. Yes, I think it has. And all those pictures you see, that's all my handiwork.
Oh, good job.
I'm the one with the cows. I'm the one taking care of that meadow, even Horse Creek's meadow. It's a daunting task, but
You're living the dream, let me tell you.
it is.
You're
It
doing
is.
right.
I just now finally got to retire, so now I'm working harder than ever at the ranch.
There you go.
So I think that's all I had to say.
All right, thank you. Anybody else have a public comment on this item? Seeing none, I bring it back. Any other comments or call for a question? I mean, a motion, not a question. Nobody's jumping on the motion here.
I'm just wondering if, Keith, are you comfortable with the verbiage before we move?
Verbiage of the motion?
Yeah, no, the verbiage of what you were asking.
Yeah, yes, I'm fine.
Yeah, because we can't change agenda much. I mean,
Yeah. Okay, well, I move to recommend to the Board of Supervisors acceptance of the Old Woods Ranch Conservation Easement.
I have a motion, I have a second. Sam, second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, call for the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Thanks, Alicia. Thank you, Lindsay. Okay, that's one more step forward. Yeah, well, that's good. Next item on the agenda. Possible action, discussion only though, regarding proposed flood storage project at Moffett Open Space. Lindsay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Lindsay Boyer, Open Space Manager for the record. So this item for review before you tonight is related to a proposed flood storage and riparian restoration project at Moffett Open Space. Recently, we had been approached by a developer, Guardian Capital, regarding this potential project. So just to, and they're here tonight and they'll be giving a presentation, but just to give you a little bit of information at the top. So Moffett Open Space was one of our first open space properties we ever acquired. We received it through donation in the year 2000. And the property has Eagle Creek running right through it. It's really close here in town. You guys probably have driven by it a million times. And Eagle Creek at that location is really a constrained channel, and we have a lot of issues there. It floods at the drop of a hat, and we've got floodwaters going over the multi-use pathway there pretty regularly. In addition to that constrained channel, it's really not a very functional riparian area. We've got lots of noxious weeds. We've got upland vegetation coming right up to the stream, and so we just don't have the most functional of a riparian wetland area. And so when we were approached by Guardian Capital and TerraPhase Engineering regarding this project, we were definitely excited to learn more. It seems like something that could provide a lot of benefits for the Moffett area and really improve the functionality. So with that, as I mentioned, we do have some staff here from Guardian Capital and TerraPhase, so I'd like to invite them up to say a few words and give a presentation.
Good evening, committee members. My name is Ken Crater with Crater Consulting Group, and I am representing Guardian Capital. And I just wanted to give you a little background as to why we're here. I have done about 4 projects now in Northern Nevada with Guardian Capital. Jim Previty, the owner and CEO of that company, longtime builder, he's got building in the blood. He had a company called Forecast Homes, built 8,000 single-family residential homes, and got tired of that and started building multifamily apartments. And the family now has roughly 2,500 units under ownership. Jim's in his 80s, and he's still alive and kicking. And he builds for a generational hold. They never sell their apartment buildings, and they understand value. So they build housing that is high quality, has great amenities, great location. And in fact, on the project that is located just a little ways to the west of here, in between Airport Road and the freeway and north of Bud-Eye, he is going to build a 3-acre dog park immediately. He wouldn't have to do it till he has 250 units, but he wants that to be part of the amenities, working with Carson City to dedicate that to the community. And we're also going to build a half-mile trail loop around the entire boundary of the property and put a public use easement on it so everybody in the public can use that trail. So we have a flood issue on that property. It's within the flood zone. And so I was looking around for parcels where we could get some flood volume mitigation. I found this site owned by Carson City. So we approached the community, and I went to my go-to guy, Mark Gukin, with TerraPhase, and his associate, Amy. I've known Mark for over 20 years. And I've worked with him on numerous complex drainage and hydrology projects. He's a great engineer, as is Amy. So I'm going to let them give a little presentation on what this can become in terms of looking at flood control, wildlife enhancement, water quality benefits, noxious weed improvements. There's a multitude of win-win here. So I'm going to turn it over to Mark, and he's got a little presentation for you, along with Amy.
For the record, Mark Gukin with TerraPhase Consultant. With me today is Amy Misnikoski, who's also going to speak on some of the technical aspects. I'm going to give a little bit more of a introduction to the project, although I think Lindsay said it very well. We've overlaid some of the features associated with the project on FEMA mapping, and the reason we did that was just to give you an idea of how the project features interact with water courses. As you can see, let's see if I can get the cursor. There we go. Okay. So the light blue areas are flood fringe areas, areas within the 100-year floodplain, but which are not necessarily conveying floodwaters well. The crosshatched areas, those are areas that are conveying rapidly moving floodwaters and really contributing the most to conveying floodwaters through the area. As Lindsay mentioned, we've got Eagle Creek that's moving through here. Upstream areas include a number of significant creeks, Ash, VC, and King, all combine into this floodway area with flood fringe areas extending northward all the way to the Lampa East Project area. Frequently, those flood fringe areas like that are described as bathtubs because there's almost sitting water, and that's certainly the case for the Lampa East Project. It's so far removed from the conveyance areas. It's an area where, just because of its elevation, floodwaters would sit during a 100-year flood event. And so to develop that, we need to raise it up. And wisely, the city has ordinances where for every cubic yard you put into the bathtub, you need to take out a cubic yard somewhere. And so that's where the other two areas come into play. And first, I'll talk about this channel restoration project. The city had a design that they had developed and been sitting, gathering dust for a number of years to restore this area, which is located between the city's corporate yard and their treatment plant. There's a lot of fill there, there's rubble there, it's not an attractive area. They wanted to restore it, but simply did not have the budget to do it. So we spoke with them about that area and took their plans and updated the survey, the topography because of the age of the plans, and refined it to expand the riparian wetlands areas a little bit more. And those plans have been approved by the city, the final design for that area. But we needed a little bit more volume restoration, and so that's why we looked at the Moffett Channel Improvement Area, restoration area. So we saw that as another opportunity to actually provide an enhancement while meeting the city's requirements for the volume mitigation. Had we done the mitigation, the volume mitigation, in any of the other light blue areas, that would have met the city's requirement for compensating for that cubic yard that's in the floodplain area. But because we're doing that work, and in both areas, it's within the floodway zone, the areas where the floodwaters are moving the most, we're able to do some very good things on behalf of the city, including reducing the flood elevations and providing some environmental and aesthetic enhancements to benefit the public. And with that, I'll turn it over to Amy, who will talk a little bit more about that.
Good evening. For the record, Amy Meisnikowski with TerraPhase.
Not moving.
There we go. All right. So yeah, thank you, Mark, for the background. I have been working really in depth on this project. I'm very excited to be here tonight and get the chance to talk about the project more with you all. I do want to jump in and talk a little bit more about the purpose, but then go into some of the benefits of the project. So as Mark mentioned, the primary purpose of this project is to support the Lampa Ranch development by providing that flood volume mitigation. But we really wanted the project to be more than just that. We have a really great team that put our heads together and we said, how can we make this more than just a flood volume mitigation project? What can we do that's going to add to the community? And this is the project we came up with. It is designed to extend or expand wetland and riparian habitats along Eagle Valley Creek, which will promote hydraulic connectivity. It will improve flood conditions. Some of the specific areas and structures that will benefit from this level of flood protection are the city's corporate yard, their emergency operations center, the treatment facility. It's lowering base flood elevations along Eagle Valley Creek. So it's really providing an additional level of flood protection than what's already there. But another really great benefit is the community enhancement. This is an area where every day there's people on their morning run, walking their dogs, riding their bikes. This project will add to the natural beauty of this parcel and Eagle Valley Creek and just really add some additional recreational value. And I do want to point out this photo on the screen is not actually of the site.
I don't remember those mountains back there.
This is near the Vegas Wash, but it's a great example that shows the connectivity with, channel area with riparian and wetland zones. That is really what we're wanting to produce with this project. Next slide, please. So we had this really great idea, and I'm telling you about all these benefits, but how are we going to make that happen? The figure on the screen is a layout of what we expect the project to look like, and you can see the constrained, narrow Eagle Valley Creek that runs between the two restoration areas. We have a restoration area to the north and one to the south, and we've designed it so that the restoration areas work with the natural hydrology. We have overflowing into the restoration areas during moderate storm events. So we've stabilized low points where flow will overtop, flow through the restoration area, and then overtop back into the creek, which will help sustain vegetation year-round. We have had wetland delineations done at the site so that we can be sure that we're protecting and avoiding any existing wetland areas during construction. One of the aspects with construction is getting materials and equipment to and from the site. So we are proposing 2 construction access routes, which are shown on the figure. But the northern construction access route is proposed to be transitioned to a trail after construction is completed. So just enhancing that trail design on the site. And lastly, with the design, landscaping, we've been working with a great landscape architect who's making sure that we're using native wetland vegetation. We want to ensure that we have a low maintenance, resilient, but also aesthetic design here. Another, item that we've really been focusing on and discussing with our landscape architect is the depth to groundwater. We are lowering the restoration areas so that they're approximately a foot above existing groundwater to really help ensure that consistent moisture level so that the vegetation can thrive. And just to wrap up with some key takeaways, this is a really great project. I'm really excited to be able to work on it. It has so many great benefits. It's going to provide flood protection to the nearby properties, lower base flood elevations for large storm events, the community enhancement to the land users and nearby residents is just going to exceed what's already there. And it's going to enhance the wetland and riparian habitats, which will promote a more diverse wildlife and a healthier ecosystem. And again, this is a great photo actually of the Carson River, again showing that connectivity between the channel and the riparian wetland areas. That's just really what we're looking for. And with that, that's our presentation. Thank you all so much for your attentiveness.
Welcome. Is that end of the presentation for now?
Yes, that concludes our presentation. Are there any
For
questions?
closing up appropriately here. Okay, want to start this side, Keith?
Yeah, would it be possible to show the map again, or of just the area? So, yeah, well, that's a good one. You're saying it's going to lower the base flood elevation significantly. Are you going to be removing part of this area completely out of the floodplain, and that's a revision, a map of revision. It's got to go to FEMA.
Well,
We'll generate a different floodplain map.
a very good question. FEMA requires that if we do anything that increases flood elevations due to activities in the floodway, that would require a map revision. Because we are lowering the flood elevations, it's not required, but certainly could be done and would remove areas. Those areas that are primarily benefiting are the city's corporate yard and treatment plant. So they're not really paying flood insurance, but it certainly benefits those facilities. And a map revision could be done, but is not necessarily required for this project.
So that's not the intent of this, to take this development out of the floodplain.
The development area, sorry, let me back up a little bit. The development area will go through a simplified FEMA process, which is a letter of map revision based on fill.
Okay.
So simply elevating
So you're-
above the current BFEs.
Okay. And hence the mitigation. Two things, other just questions. What has been the thought process? Maybe, Amy, this is where you come in. What kind of maintenance is expected in this new area? We get, every time we get a storm here, pretty soon we've got half the alluvial fan of Prison Hill coming down to somewhere. Whose responsibility will it be to keep the elevation of that cleared out and keep it clear and clean?
Yeah, I can answer that, and Lindsay can chime in too, but we're basically going to do a life cycle cost analysis of this base and determine what the maintenance requirements are, say, over the next 40 years. And then we're going to work with the city to put together a plan to make sure that that ability to do that maintenance is there, which would be obviously a financial contribution from Guardian Capital. Okay. And that will factor in all the different things that need to be done, everything from, worst case, having to muck silt out of the basin during a major storm event, to keeping the native landscaping healthy, addressing any erosion issues. All that will be part of that maintenance plan. And in fact, I talked to Lindsay and Jennifer Budge today. We're going to be going out here hopefully in the next couple weeks with staff. Basically the construction access that goes up to Fairview and Bud-Eye, we've talked about making that part of the overall trail system. And I believe when we cut that in to the hillside, we can right then and there avoid some erosion just by doing proper grading and laying base down and working with the contours, possibly doing some small berms or something. So all that will be part of it. We're actually going to try and help the current erosion issue, as well as having a maintenance plan for the long-term maintenance of the facility.
And, Mark Gukin for the record. If I can just add to that, as you can see from the plan, we've got stabilized areas where overflows would go into the lowered areas and then leave those lowered areas. And the intent of that is the largest volume of sediment, the heaviest material, the larger material, would still continue down the main channel. But during those moderate flood events, that surface layer of flows would overflow into those areas. So it would require less maintenance than otherwise.
And then last, I don't need to occupy the mic, but what about drought years? Is there a problem if this becomes wetland mitigation and we're going to create a wetland area, and then we get into a drought year where maybe that wetland lived over here, but now it won't live? Will it come back?
And we have a great landscape architect, again, Ken Crater for the record, but Callender and Associates has done a ton of work in this type of area. And that's why we're picking native plants that can survive those long-term drought years. And also as important is noxious weed mitigation. And I managed a 1,400-acre ranch in Elko, Nevada for about 15 years. And I learned full well there that for noxious weed management, it's not just spraying the weeds on occasion, but establishing that native vegetation that makes it a lot more difficult for those noxious weeds to come back strongly. And so that's why we got to make sure that we have that right plant selection. And that's why, too, we're working to get that elevation a foot above groundwater that will allow those deep rooting plants to tap into that groundwater, just like a sagebrush, right? Where roots can literally grow like 20 feet and really tap into that low-level groundwater.
Mark Ukin for the record, if I can just add to that a little bit. And I'm not sure, maybe Amy mentioned it. If she did, forgive me, but we are planning an irrigation program for the first couple of years until the plants get established and get their root systems established. So that would be part of the project.
Just a little bit of confusion on my end. Can someone walk me through the financial impact of this? Who's footing the bill? What's required from Carson City?
Sure, I can walk you through that. Guardian Capital is footing the bill. What we're requiring from the city is just cooperation on the design, on the permitting, and coming up with that maintenance plan and approval of that maintenance plan. But there won't be any fiscal impact to the city other than just the staff time to get this thing done.
Thank you.
Thank you for starting to talk about the weeds. I was curious, how do you get rid initially of the noxious weeds?
Yeah, and again, it's not easy, right? But when I did my project in Elko, I worked with a gentleman that came from the Nevada Division of Forestry, so he had a lot of expertise, and it's getting somebody that can identify exactly what those weeds are, what different chemical, biological controls you can apply to get rid of those weeds. But in the end, it's establishing strong native vegetation that really does the brunt of the work and not allowing those noxious weeds to propagate anymore because of the root system of the native plants.
So you would probably initially have to use chemicals, possibly, not for sure, to knock them down first before you get in the native plants.
Yes, chemical or some type of biological controls. Like I'm a big fan of vinegar. I never use Roundup, right? I like to use things that I can apply that biodegrade and don't have any negative impact on other plants or wildlife. And I know that's becoming more and more the practice, is to use those biological controls that don't have a negative impact on the environment.
Has this company used vinegar before?
I can't tell you if they have, but I can say that there are some great resources like that that are very
awesome.
effective. Yeah.
Dynamite. That's what I think of when I think of noxious weeds. So,
Right.
yeah. All right, thank you.
Was that a recommendation or was that?
Yes.
Member Burge, Lindsay Boyer for the record, I'll just add to that. So this location, as mentioned, already does have a pretty significant noxious weed population. We're already having to go in and spray. One of the issues is that we don't have really great connectivity to the floodplain and to the stream channel, which is just allowing these noxious weeds to come in and take hold. And so we've actually toured other projects on the Truckee River where they had significant perennial pepperweed problems, which is what we have here. And when they started to restore that connectivity to the floodplain is when they started to see those native plants come back in, and it really changed the situation. So it's almost like an intervention to be able to get the vegetation in the functioning place that it should be. Right now, we don't have that functionality, and so we're seeing those noxious weeds as a result.
That's really interesting. That's good to know. Right. Thank you.
Yeah, committee member Jay Wiggins for the record. So most developers don't do things out of the kindness of their heart. And so this, however, does sound pretty good on the surface. But my question to you would be, if this doesn't go through, are you going to have to do these flood control measures on your property? Is that going to impact how much you can develop? You can't do 384 units now. You have to drop it back. However, I'm just going to say it does sound like a win-win. The city needs this, and people need houses. So just wondering how, if this doesn't go through, how does this impact your project?
we have to have, again, Ken Crater for the record, we have to have this flood volume mitigation for our project to work. We do have that corporation yard permitted, which is the bulk of the material that we need. And the city had suggested that we look at the Kings Canyon area to provide for some of that flood volume mitigation, but it's a long haul route. It goes by the middle school. There's all the residential homes up there. So that just didn't seem to me a good fit with this project being so far away, having impacts on the middle school. But we would have to then look at other sites within that floodplain. And Mark said you could go to those blue areas, but that doesn't really provide the benefits. And we see this as an amenity for our project too. It's going to be within walking distance. So if you're going to spend money, I'd rather spend money to benefit the community, to benefit our project. And like I said, Jim Previty gets it, right? Create value with good things for the project and the community.
Thank you.
Well, I was doing some homework and went back and looked at the original the open space plan to see, well, does that allow you to make wetlands? And it does in the basic setup for defining what open space does, and it's to develop regional detention areas and protect floodplains. So that covered that. And then the other thing was it to be covered for the, which I can't find now. It's in the specific description of that, of MOSFET in the document in the plan that, and the recommended actions was what Mark was talking about. So it's even in the open space plan that the Mexican Ditch Trail, where they consider revegetation treatment should be applied to the previously disturbed areas, native seed. So there's already requested things to fix that area in the plan. So I mean, I'd like to go back to the bookshelf and say, well, did this fit the past? So it fits the spot. So I wonder, when you play with water like that, stuff downstream has an impact too. So have we gone to the river with this plan that you can say all of this won't have a pinch point, because Mexican Ditch is right in the middle of this too, but that we can get it to the river without creating a problem downriver, or not downstream to the river?
Yeah, I'll take Mark Kuchen for the record, I'll take a stab at that. There is going to still be a hydraulic control created by that multi-use pathway in the Mexican Ditch. So the benefits for flood protection and lowering the flood elevations are predominantly, they're upstream from that point. So those structures really are going to control conditions downstream and keep them basically the same as what they are today.
It's a pretty big ditch down there that goes to the river. So.
Yeah.
When you said you add wetland, is there some advantage that we can bank that or do something in the future with when you add wetlands? Because I know if you take it down, you got to go fix it somewhere else. I didn't know if the city or maybe part of the plan is what they're going to do with the added wetland space.
Well, I think, I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry.
It's possible that they're mitigating that. Isn't some of the area within the development wetland now?
Mark Kuchen for the record, wetlands mitigation is not necessary on these properties for the project. There's a core permit in place for the project. There's avoidance of existing wetlands areas within the project area. So this wetland creation is not necessary for the project. It would be something extra maybe the city could do something with.
Yeah, Lindsay Boyer for the record. To my knowledge, the city doesn't have like a wetland banking program. Other communities and entities sometimes do that. But for us, there's obvious intrinsic benefits of increasing wetland habitat. We don't have tons of wetlands in Carson or in Nevada. And so any place where we can improve that riparian habitat just has cascading benefits for wildlife and for the watershed and water quality. And the wildlife especially. I learned an interesting figure that it's like something like 95% of wildlife species depend on these riparian areas in Nevada, which I think it's only like 2% or something of Nevada is wetland. So creating these habitats wherever we can is important.
Great. I thought that would be a plus in there. So My only other comment was I'm gonna go to sleep tonight and wake up wondering where I learned the word bathtub involved with riparian areas. Pretty mushy place to think about it. So, if anything else I learned tonight was bathtubs, and I guess that's a technical engineering term that I just hadn't heard before.
Oh, come on, we use that all the time.
Was there any other questions? If not, I'm gonna open up for public comment. Now we have public comment. For anybody want to come forward? Come on up, sir. Come up to the mic and turn on and identify yourself.
Good evening. My name is Michael Bell, and I own the property just to the east of where that project ends. A couple years ago, I was at a Board of Supervisors meeting following some flooding that had taken place, and I pointed out that any development of impermeable surface or creation of impermeable surface is going to create downstream real flooding problem. I should say here that Eagle Valley Creek goes right through my property. When my folks bought the place in 1962, Eagle Valley Creek was about 3 to 4 feet wide. It's now 20 feet wide. And a lot of that came from the 96, 97 flood. But the point is still that what is being created in this community is impermeable surface. You have impermeable surface, that's where this development is proposed to be, not this development, the housing development. You're going to create impermeable surface. That water is just going to cascade off there. It may go, this may help to some degree, but you'll pardon me if I'm just a little bit doubtful of what will happen. My sense is that it will come flashing right through that creek under the Mexican Dam Bridge, which is already touchy in terms of its stability. It seems like it gets bent more and more with every heavy water usage that comes down that Eagle Valley Creek. I'm very reticent to get up and cheer for this project when I see that what its purpose is to lower the water level so that the apartments can be developed, developing impermeable surface, and then creating more of a cascade down through this mitigation area, so to speak, and not doing a whole heck of a lot of good for my property or for the Mexican Dam ditch. So you'll pardon me if I have some reservations about the glory on this. Also, as far as being a wetland area, it's a pretty neat wetland area. I don't know if you've realized there are or have been lots of turtles in there, as well as other lots and lots of birds, and it's kind of an interesting area. People go by the area; they use it all the time. So thank you for allowing me to comment.
Well, thank you. So this isn't an action item, so there'll actually be more opportunities for that discussion.
Thank you all. Take advantage.
Okay. Any other public comments? Seeing none, bring it back. It's a non-action item for discussion only, so we don't have to make a motion. But any other comment to close this up? Nope. We're fine then.
Just for my clarity, is this just informational for us, or is this going to come back to us for some official motion to recommend it?
Lindsay Boyer for the record. So at this time, it's purely informational for you guys. This isn't something, at least this particular project isn't something that needs to get recommended up to the Board of Supervisors. So at this point, it's mostly for your edification. If you wanted me to bring it back for formal action, we could, but I think the main goal was just to get you guys the information here and hear any concerns and be able to give that feedback to our project partners as they continue developing the plan.
Yeah, because sometimes we read about these plans in the newspaper because they're at the planning commission or some other place. So I applaud Lindsay for putting this in front of us for some good discussion before it ends up at the planning commission and we don't have as much to make comments to actually then.
And to be clear, this is, the reason we're looking at is because it's within open space. It's managed by the open space, but does it create a maintenance requirement for us? Is this where staff are gonna have to now be maintaining a different kind of part of open space?
Yeah, Lindsay Boyer for the record. So yeah, I wanted to bring it before you because this is a project proposed on open space. Obviously, it fits in a larger development project. Open space isn't really involved in the development side. It's mostly related to this proposal. And as mentioned, you know, one of the things that we talked about early on with this project was the need for some kind of maintenance agreement, some kind of endowment that would help support the maintenance needs for this project so the city wasn't taking on those additional expenses. Ultimately, it would be our staff who are implementing the maintenance. You know, we are already, as I mentioned, doing maintenance out here like weed control. So it would be kind of incorporated into what we're already doing, and hopefully with the improvements, it would actually lessen the amount of weed control that is currently happening out there.
Okay. So we'll close this up, and I want to, this couple with this wonderful child, I'm just totally impressed that she's been so quiet for this whole, very patient, and she deserves a award, or he, I'm sorry. If I had one, I would certainly, they deserve it. So I hope this meeting's been exciting for you guys. I'm going to ask if anybody wants to take a break before we move to the next item on the board. No? No? Rock and roll? Oh, you want to come up and make public comment? I'm sorry if I missed. Oh! Well, you're making more than public. I thought maybe I goofed up there. Okay, let's get to the next item then. Discussion and possible action regarding a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors regarding the John D. Winters Centennial Park Master Plan. Nick. Yes, I've met you before, Nick, and I forgot.
Good evening, committee members. Nick Wentworth, Carson City Parks Project Manager for the record. I'm here to present to you the draft John D. Winters Centennial Park Master Plan. So this process started around September of 2024 with a public survey. We had a need to come up with a master plan for Centennial Park. It's an aging facility. There's a lot of areas of the park that are not best used anymore. They're deteriorated. Maybe they've passed their prime at the moment. So wanted to come up with a master plan which essentially sets the long-term goals for the facility and what we envision happening there down the road, no matter how long that takes, but the best use of that. You can see a couple of just excerpts from comments that came through the survey. We really need some football fields for the kids in Carson City. The mountain bike community is very large, and a local bike park would provide an excellent place for locals and others from the outside area to come for the riding and help support the local community. Let's get the youth active. Happy to see the city stepping up for much-needed tennis facility. That last one, I think, kind of captures the feelings, but in my opinion, the whole Centennial Complex needs an overdue overhaul from the road, fields, court, trails, and restrooms. So we
got a lot of responses to that survey. Also reached out to all the stakeholders there. So the Recreation Division of Carson City Parks and Rec oversees the leagues that take place at the upper fields now. I would consider them a stakeholder. They are operating I don't know if you call it a business, but they're operating city leagues there, and part of that equation. Duncan Golf has been contracted to help manage Eagle Valley Golf Course since 2018. The Clear Creek Bowman Archery Club manages and maintains the Carson City Archery Range. Ride Carson City quickly organized there's been outreach to develop a bike park there since, I know before I was the Parks Project Manager, so at least 6 or 7 years at a minimum. Ride Carson City kind of quickly organized along with Muscle Powered and has been pushing the movement to build a bike park and get us to include it in the master plan for Upper Centennial. So all those stakeholders have been included in discussions, the various stages of review throughout the master plan process. These are just a couple of samples. The full survey is in the appendix of the master plan, but these are just a couple to highlight a few things. The age range of people, visitors using the park, whether or not we need more parking, if you'd be in favor of an off-leash dog park, that was a yes. Do you agree that Carson City has a need for, and would you support a multi-purpose athletic field for youth and or adult sports? That was a yes as well. So these are the existing conditions. You can see the high slope area surrounding Upper Centennial. We have some significant erosion that has taken place over the last 5 to 10 years that has caused some damage to the tennis facility and the upper fields. Basically get wind from every direction up there. It doesn't really matter, or it'll change 5 minutes later. You think it's coming out of the west, and then all of a sudden it's out of the northeast. You can see the tennis courts. We've also drawn in here the vehicular road that goes past the archery range. We identified right away that there are large tournaments or other events at Upper Centennial that would definitely benefit from having a secondary access, and whether or not, potentially that's just emergency access or emergency exit. In the case of a fire or anything else, you get that many people up there in that one area, only having one access point coming down Centennial Park Drive is not the greatest idea for packing that many people up there. So wanted to explore that. You can also see this highlights the 20 acres west of the lower fields, which is also Carson City property. So we've included that parcel as well in the master plan. So this is what we came up with for the lower section of the park. This incorporates multi-use fields, and you can see the dog park to the east of existing Centennial Park Drive, separated by the roadway. We do not allow pets at the sports complexes now, so I felt separating it from the actual sports complex portion is a good use of that small parcel or small area of land there, but also it's not right next to the sports complexes or fields where we're trying to keep the pets and pet owners out of from, that definitely takes away from people's enjoyment of the multi-use fields. Also, spread out parking here. We only have 3 sports complexes in town, and I feel like utilizing the lower portion or all of Centennial to the best of our ability is crucial at this point with, a lack of field space for a lot of different youth and adult sports. Like I said, parking's spread out pretty well, more evenly balanced. We have parking issues at Governor's Field. You get that many parking spaces all at one end of the complex, and then during football, you have grandmas, hiking a quarter mile from one end of the parking lot to the other end of the complex to watch their grandkids' football games or whatever it is. So that was taken into account. You got a small maintenance yard shop area in the lower left, number 7. Also included a playground here. The playground at the upper fields is locked inside the fence. It is basically only open to the public when those fields are open. So during adult league softball or soccer, when there's an organized event happening there, is really the only time that playground's open to the public because the gates are locked otherwise. So this would be open full-time, year-round. We've got user group storage area. There's 2 of them identified on here, as well as 2 separate restroom areas and potentially a snack bar concession area. Would you guys like me to, you want to ask any questions as I go through versus coming back to the lower area? Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you, because I might not remember that. But I know you picked up on parking. Did you do it in this master plan? Did you look at Carson City being able, whether it's Pop Warner football or whatever it might be, hosting larger regional events like they, like we see sometimes up in Reno or some other places? And I'm just wondering, the parking looks like you added some, but I'm just wondering, do you feel like you added enough? I mean, are these?
Well, there is no permanent improved parking areas at lower right now. It's
Right.
just dirt.
Right.
Actually, I just finished the tennis court project, and all of the grindings from those asphalt courts went to lower to help mitigate some of the mud parking issues down there.
But this looks great. If you build this and now all of a sudden everybody's sponsoring us, which would be great for the economy. It's just, I really think that that amount of parking and that secondary route is really important. But
I think this is underestimated. I think that lower left lot that's shown with 108 stalls, you could easily increase that. You could fit more parking in here than what's shown here. I'm on the Little League board. My kids play football, baseball. I have witnessed youth sports parking nightmares. I get it. I know what that. And to your question, whether this opens the door for tournaments or whatever that may be, of 100%. Field construction at Upper Centennial just started last week. That in and of itself, I drive to California for travel ball, baseball tournaments 5 or 6 times a winter, or Golden Eagle for football and baseball. And without a doubt, I see it, which is obviously the reason CTA sponsored is behind the upper field improvement, is the potential to bring those kinds of things in. And I see the same thing with football. I don't see any reason why, some of the regional games, the Snow Bowl is the Northern Nevada kind of end of season game here locally. That's been in Dayton the last couple of years. But like I said, I travel to Golden Eagle and I see the amount of people that brings up there, whether it's travel baseball, slow pitch softball. Well, you got 5 different variations of softball tournaments, whether it's senior leagues and fast pitch, slow pitch. So we'd also look at this. The intent with lower is multi-use fields. Football doesn't have a home. They share Governor's Field with Little League at this point. This could provide a home for them, as well as overflow soccer fields. You can see that we had the the big field number 1 there drawn in just to show what 2 softball fields on there would look like. And maybe if that was just a dirt infield, you could still have 8 soccer games out there and never even touch that infield dirt. So the intention is truly multi-use fields that kind of pick up the slack of everything else, or give us field space that we don't otherwise have anywhere else.
Are you asking us to make comments just the one on the TV screen right now?
No,
Is
I'm
that-
going to go to,
No,
if you have any questions, sure.
Because that's what I thought you meant, specific to talk to this instead of the whole big picture thing yet, so.
Whenever's easier for you. If you have questions
Well, I'm gonna
specific
ask
to
the crew here
lower,
now. I'm gonna ask the board that, did you have questions to this that wanted to make comments or, okay. So my only thought was, I visit this area a lot to go play golf. So that's a mud bog in there that I thought would be a good program with bleachers to put on with big crowds to watch trucks go through there and get all muddy and dirty. I worked at shows like that before in a park I was at once, and they had to dig 3 feet of the soil out before they put the gravel in, 3 feet. So I don't know what it's like there, but it sure is a silty situation there. So I assume you guys have, some engineers been out with geotech or something to find out what's up with the soils there. That might be a challenge.
that would certainly have to be done along with construction drawings for actual construction phase of this. The only thing funded that is included in this master plan, the tennis courts are now done.
Right.
So the cost estimate portion of this breaks down some items around the tennis courts that weren't included or we're not going to be able to accomplish right now. So essentially, besides that, and the upper fields are obviously funded, there are some items in this cost estimate that weren't in there, but the rest of this is unfunded. This isn't a set of construction
That
drawings.
answered a big question.
This opens the door so that we can track down funding or go after grants, or Board of Supervisors approves this and then the long-term goals are set.
I got you.
And we're not going back to get multi-use fields approved at lower, or, we can make those CIP requests or apply for grants. And
Well, that explains better that this is not a 96% plan. It's just essentially an overview of what you would hope that.
long-term goals.
Because I love the road design and some of the changes there, and the more fields you have, the better. I've seen I think it's baseball, have tournaments where people are sleeping in the sagebrush all along the road and up in the hill and in the gutters and everywhere else when there's so many of them there. So I hope these parking spaces will allow the trailers to park in there and some of those other things. Because I feel bad for them if they got stuck in the sagebrush. It's been in the night there. But
I think that's the softball players at Upper, and
Is that what it
I
is?
think they like it.
I thought alcohol had something to do with it, but that was. So it's nice that all this is, because that's a wonderful area for a park, and this is a great place to have all these. We just got to get bicycles safe somehow from here into town. So we could put that on there.
So there is a bike path on Centennial Park Drive, and then of course along William or Highway 50 all the way back. We tried for quite a while with some outreach from the park rangers and contacting the business owners there on Centennial Park Drive. They were that short section of multi-use path was kind of taken over by the businesses, and we tried to contact them. It's kind of an uphill battle when nobody uses it, or saying you can't park all your vehicles out here because
Nobody's using it.
Yeah.
That guy at the pawn shop tried that. It didn't work so well across the street. Okay, so now I understand that I thought we were looking more of it's got a budget and a few things, but we're not. So that's great. So I'm ready for you to move on then and enlighten us.
So here's the Upper Park plan. As mentioned, new tennis courts are in and completed. Some of this would include an additional parking lot there that could serve as overflow for those softball tournaments or other tournaments at the upper area, or if we start having tennis tournaments, obviously. Some improvements to the plaza or central area between the courts. Other than that, essentially some landscaping and drainage. We have drainage improvements planned all over the facility. You can see all 4 of the number 10 areas. I'm in, I'm nearing 90% design right now with outside consultant for drainage infrastructure for the entire upper park area. We know that that's a necessity with the investments that are going into the tennis courts and those upper fields. We need to protect that new infrastructure and those assets from flooding and erosion and sediment damage that we've seen in the last 5 to 10 years. We just need to make some corrections to manage the stormwater as best as we can. You can see potential location for that secondary access coming in from the right. Kind of undetermined. I don't think we would ever pave that, but in talks with transportation, it would certainly have to be a right in, right out only out on Highway 50 where you access the archery range now. So currently you can turn into that road next to some storage units and drive up to the archery range. Right at the archery range, there's a bar gate and you can't go any farther. Some public works maintenance staff gets back in there sometimes or parks, but that's about it. The road now heads up to the upper section of this north of Heritage Park Drive, where here we're identifying a new and improved trailhead. So that would likely be similar to the improvements that we've made at Fifth Street Trailhead, or more recently Kuntz or King's, or so a vault toilet, picnic shelter, pretty standard parking area, 20 plus spaces, or they're showing the 48 stalls there below that, but the intention would also be to expand parking on that entire loop. So purposely left this a little bit vague as far as that secondary access and some of the parking, because that would all be dependent. We know we need to expand parking, but that's all dependent on the funding with each project, how much you can add on to with each, whether it's with the trailhead. We've got the bike park called out on here. The number 8 is really just the area inside of that, the existing gravel road there that's kind of in the core part of the park. But with working with Ride Carson City and Muscle Powered, they would love a lot more land, and we have lots of land up there. So didn't want to we colorized the rest of the number 9 area there just to show that the bike park isn't limited to any specific area, but the number 8 there would be the kind of key area right next to the trailhead in the centralized part of the park. And the bike park would be open to expand as far as it wants to go, essentially. There's a lot of BLM land up there outside of Carson City's property. So kind of limitless at that point. The only things included in the cost estimate for the field area was just a few items that we weren't able to include with the budget for this existing project that's just started. That's it.
That's it. That's all.
Just
folks.
that.
Explicit.
Yeah.
That's all. Folks.
Do you guys have any other questions?
Well, none on this side?
I'm really excited to see the bike park. Do you know if Muscle Powered and this organization that's been wanting one, are they mobilizing volunteers to start something?
This is the first step.
Okay.
So getting it approved in the master plan. Now they can, once this is approved by Board of Supervisors, they are very well organized at this point, but actually start taking steps forward into fundraising, design, those types of things.
All right. Thank you, Nick.
You're welcome.
I know we've talked a lot about circulation and parking. Did you have conversations with the fire department about this and their need? And, you know, is the occupancy load gets higher in there for certain events? And
fire reviewed this plan. They didn't have any comments like that, or any concerns, I should say.
with regard to transportation, I think I've heard, I don't know for certain, but there's going to be a light at Draco Way. with that new subdivision that's being built up there behind Draco Way. I don't know if you've seen that.
I think you're right.
But I think there's supposed to be a traffic light there, and I think that we ought to try to maybe say, hey, there could be a left in at that light to a frontage road that would get you to that part of Centennial. It's just across the street.
I'm not sure what the feasibility of that is. I know that it's a steep hill with NDOT. It would likely require turn pockets to excel and decel turn pockets on that side of the road to pave that and truly improve it as a like open to the public access point, you know, when the complex is open. So I'm not sure
I was just
what
talking about when that's a signalized intersection that we work, yeah, anyway.
I'm trying to
check
visualize
into
how
that.
far off or where that
It's
is
a
in
little bit of
alignment to it.
distance, yeah, from the entrance to the archery range.
It's a little bit, but it's worth discussing, I think,
Oh.
city's sake. Because that, I think, would be a great place to provide that extra access.
Anything else? First, I want to say that the bike park was a discussion we had when the new state office outdoor rec came. The speaker was talking about bike parks, and this whole board was very enthusiastic behind the bike park. So I'm very pleased to see that, and it's something in every community is now going after bike parks. And what's the other thing that there's another word for the bike facility that they have that's even a higher level. So I just wanted to feedback that we've already had that and with great enthusiasm towards the bike park. So that helps give you authorization at a higher level, we'll see. I was curious, it has nothing to do with your plan, but all that sod that went, did it go to the ball fields from the ball fields?
Park maintenance staff harvested as much sod as they could from the upper fields, and they've been kind of tuning up those lower fields.
That's what.
Yeah,
I
so
thought maybe they were doing that. I couldn't figure
they've
it
been
out.
edging the infield and replacing a bunch of sod
That's a
down there. I
heck
think I believe that they're done with 2 of them, and they have enough sod to do what they need to on the 3rd softball
Great.
field as well as the soccer field.
Yeah, that was enough sod there. I figured to do another hole in the golf course when they got that in there. So I thought I saw that. The ingress that he just talked about, I had that as a note from the archery range. You really want it to be known as a secondary access so people aren't using it as a primary, and it's dirt and all the other things that go with that. So it's kind of like a fire road more than, it would seem you'd plan it that way rather than deal with
The more we looked at it, that's what made more sense, is maybe as an emergency exit or after a large event, like say the fireworks or something,
Yeah.
maybe it's opened up, it's one-way exit traffic
Maybe.
only.
That would make a lot of sense. I didn't see in the plan where the trailhead area had a restroom, and I may have missed it, and so they wouldn't have to walk all the way through
There
the
is.
ball fields to get to a bathroom. So is there one up there too, I guess? I missed it. I was looking for the number 2, which is down at the other area. But up where the 24 stalls were for the bike park and all that activity, I thought there'd be a bathroom up there.
It was supposed to.
So the bathroom disappeared. Technology aid.
The intention was, I will make a note of that. The intention was a vault toilet,
That
similar
would
to a
make
lot of the other.
sense there rather than having
Getting
one.
utilities up there would be difficult
That would be
at best.
totally understandable. All I know is the payment on that facility is the worst payment I've ever been on in my life. You need to have a soft ride car to get through there. So this will be a really great enhancement. I think there's been a lot of discussion from the city that they know these tournaments make a lot of money for this community, and tourism loves it. So hopefully the tourism dollars help come support this too, so that these events can happen, and enhancing that. I think they're a great asset to the community, and I know the business community likes them a little bit. So I don't have any more questions. I think this is great, and I'd love to see this move on and be a part of Carson City and step one at a time as the money becomes available. So is there any other questions? If not, I'll ask for public comment on this item.
My
Sure. Come up, identify yourself, and
I need to spell my name.
I don't know.
Semblance.
Oh.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Verivi, Verive. I'm an East Side resident. I live off August Drive, so I'm about half mile from Centennial Park. I walk there 4 or 5 times a week. The work is excellent. The tennis courts look great. When I looked at this master plan, I was really excited because I feel like it's a really underused facility, right? We have these softball tournaments. We have all these people coming. People come up to the upper area to go look for the wild horses on a regular basis. People are walking their dogs. I walk around the loop. And so I just appreciate being part of the conversation. I filled out the survey, so I gave feedback. And so there's just a couple things I wanted to mention. First is that what I do is I go and I walk the loop. And I want to make sure that if we're going to make it more trafficky, if we can still have that kind of a use, you know, where you can actually walk the path around it. The softball people don't appreciate me sometimes, but I'm still there. And one time I caught a softball, so I thought that was helpful.
Just wear a baseball jersey when you're out.
Yeah, because they can hit them pretty hard. The second thing is I'm glad you mentioned the fireworks, because that's a big change. And it is kind of scary to see all those people not being able to get out. I mean, if there was a fire or if there was something, egress is really, really, really limited. And I hope that we continue to have the fireworks there because I think it's a great venue for it. You can see them really well, I think. The other thing I was wondering about for the development that's along Arrowhead Drive, it looks like that's a huge expansion of what's not there already, right? So to me, it looks like the new building is going to take over the wetlands. And Sherry, you were talking a bit about the silty stuff. And the fact is, I don't know if it's a technical wetlands, but it is a wet land. And there are birds and raptors, and there's cool, perhaps noxious weeds like Russian olive trees. But there are really pretty groves in there, and there's a little stream in there. And I'm hopeful that maybe even if we make it into this beautiful modern facility, that there might be some nature areas that are preserved so that when one is walking, maybe as taking a break, or there's a lot of folks that come to support the people playing in the games, that there's more of a natural area. So I wanted to mention that as well. Otherwise, thank you to the city for all the work, and I think it looks pretty cool.
There's an active group of deer that love hanging out on those Russian olives and between the development here and the golf course. There's like a 6-point buck that hangs in there all the time. So the wildlife is really big, actually, from the golf course on that side because of the lake and the water and all the wildlife. So her point, I would add my support for that. But may not happen, but at least you got the support. Anybody else with public comment? Is that why you've been here patiently all night long, and now you know more about the Open Space Committee than you ever thought you knew?
So for the record, my name's Dan Thornton. I'm a muscle-powered board member, and I'm the founder of Ride Carson City. I'm a 5th-generation Nevadan, and patience, right? So this project has actually been, in one form or another, been talked about in this location for 8 years. So I've spearheaded it now actively for 2 years, and there was some talk that at least the notes that I look back on show it in this location back in 2017. So anyway, let's see here. So my name's Dan Thornton. I'm a board member with Muscle Powered, as I said, founder of Ride Carson City, and I really am here because I care deeply about outdoor recreation and the future of our shared community spaces. I also care deeply about having reasons for our children to stay around this community. I think we have some tremendous outdoor resources as it stands now, but adding something like a premier community bike park will both allow us to keep our children in the area, and as they age, it is also shown that it attracts and helps businesses maintain quality employees as well. So I want to thank the committee for the work that you do. It's essential, and hearing the stories tonight from the different projects that you're working on and the history of the open space and the acquisition of the conservation easement to up on 50 is fantastic. I do have a little personal aside there. I hope that one day that maybe they can work some kind of trail in there, because that would give us potentially access from the Lincoln bypass area across underneath Golf Course Drive, and then you would have be able to go on single track all the way down south without crossing the road. So that's a little aside. I want to give some huge kudos to Nick and Jen and Greg Bergen for the work that they've done on the Centennial Park Master Plan. It's a huge project. It took a lot. There's a lot of stakeholders out there. The process really stood out. We had hundreds of people that shared input through surveys and events. That kind of public engagement is what makes the plan strong and rooted in community. I am excited about this plan because it doesn't just maintain what we have, it builds on it, and it reflects how our community has grown and how our recreational needs have changed. As the spearhead of this grassroots community effort, I'm obviously excited about the opportunity, and I want to say it's not just a place for experienced riders. I get a lot of questions about what it's going to be. It's not just a place for experienced riders. It is the reason why this young gentleman over here has hung out is because we are going to have facilities for riders like this who are on push bikes. So it's a space where families, kids, and new riders can build skills and have fun close to home. Currently, most of the premier bike parks that we would be in competition and actually, we'll see how it goes, but they close 6 months of the year. So the Truckee Bike Park tarps up their jumps right about now. Actually, this storm this weekend, that'll be it for them for the season. Whether it dries up or not, they will just tarp them and close them again until the spring. Baiju Bike Park will do the same thing. And I saw the announcement for Sky Tavern Bike Park yesterday that they're closed for the season as well. So the Carson City Bike Park has the opportunity to be a year-round facility. Truly, I think that even in a big year, we would have volunteers that would shovel off the backsides of jumps and only the north, so you get the north side snow off and the rest of the park would be open. The phased design shows smart planning. It gives us flexibility to grow the park in a way that matches future funding and evolving community needs. And Muscle Power's been a partner with the city now for 26 years. We've won awards with you all for for Cap to Tahoe and Ash to Kings. I hope that you'll recommend moving the Centennial Park Master Plan forward to the Board of Supervisors. It's a strong vision that balances conservation and recreation. And thanks again for your time in helping shape the future of Carson City Bike Park.
Thank you. I gave you extra time for your child.
I know, thanks. Appreciate it. It's not my child, but it's a friend's child.
I added 3 more
Thank
minutes if
thank
you want.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you for letting me go over. Appreciate it.
No, thank you for your comments. Anybody else want to come forward? Oh, there we go.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Christy Robusto for the record, ROBUSTO. I will keep my comments short because I have a very patient 3-year-old that's been with me for the last few hours.
No kidding.
Yeah, but I just wanted to express my support for the master plan as well as the bike park that's built into it. As our good friend Dan alluded to, this little one has actually been already on the trails with his Strider bike, and we happened to cross the high school team recently, and that was quite the experience as a mother, trying to create a safe environment where he can be out in a multi-use space, trying to learn skills, while also not getting run over by people that are going extremely fast. So the idea of having a place that kids like him that want to be out on the dirt is exciting for me. And learning to do the pedal bike as well. But also having all the sports facilities as a former youth coach for soccer competitively, having those fields would be fantastic. And as a physical activity researcher, just having more places for youth to be active in the community would be lovely. So urging all of you to support this initiative.
Thank you. I forgot, during reading the survey, there was one question that what sport? And it's like football, baseball, but the other was huge.
That's all the bike park people.
Oh, but what other use is there? Is there a new sport I'm missing out on something? Okay, that explains that. Yeah, I saw people playing pickleball the other day. This is a great plan and a lot of work, Nick, and you should be given accolades for all the energy and time you put into this, and good public support for it with that survey was huge. So you're certainly going there. Everything that you were talking about, it's got a yellow and a little bit of piece on the end of it. So you've done your diligence there. Any other questions? So we actually get an action item here. So I would look for a motion for approval.
I move to recommend approval of the John D. Winter Centennial Park Master Plan to the Board of Supervisors.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second?
Mary's second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, call for the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimous. Thank you. Good job.
Thank you.
We look forward to watching a little piece at a time come rolling in there.
Do you have $44 million?
Well, that's Jennifer's job.
Actually, I added the drainage concept to it today, so now it's only 46 and a half.
Well, that's good news to tell us at the end, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there you go. A lot of patient people to sit through a lot of meeting before they got a chance to make a comment. So next on the agenda, possible action. Discussion, possible action regarding the proposed Carson River Trail System, Phase 4, Riverview Trailhead Concept Plans with Greg. There you are. You're in charge.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, Greg Bergeron, Trails Coordinator. So the area that we're talking about is the Korean War Memorial and Riverview Trailhead, which provides, it's at the very far end, at the very east end of Fifth Street. It provides access to over 14 miles of multi-use pathway throughout the Carson River system. But the facility has exceeded its useful life. It's about 1.3 acres, and there's the existing facility, as you can see in this image, and realize the image is upside down. North is down, but there's parking to the south, which is dirt. There's a little bit of parking here to the north, which is paved. The Korean War Memorial has pavement or traffic that goes around it. The shade structure is really not very functional. It has a big brick wall kind of in the middle, and it's not really used very often. The restroom has to be closed in the winter, and we use a portable in the winter. And so everything there has really exceeded its useful life. It's aging infrastructure, and so we were able to secure $2.3 million in funding from the Southern Nevada Public Lands Management Act. And with that, we have moved forward with the design and engineering for a new facility there. Just a little bit about what we've done for public engagement. We sent out 340 mailers to neighbors in this area, noticing them about an open house that we held on September 15th on site, and then also giving them the option to provide feedback on an online survey. And then we also took our concept plan to PRC 2 weeks ago, and now it's coming to you. So here is the concept plan. Oh, let me put this in. There we go. Yeah, much better to look at. Okay. So just a little bit of reference here. The light-colored circles are existing trees. The dark green circles are trees that we would be planting. We only have plans right now to take out 2 existing trees, and neither one of them is in very good condition. Kind of go through the numbers. So, number 1, this would be the new trail access. There would be a kiosk sign here, which is in line with our master plan for signage that we have at all of our other trailhead facilities. The restroom would be fully plumbed and heated for year-round use and include a dog watering station as well as a human watering station.
A human watering station?
What's that?
It's a whole new recreational term I hadn't heard, a human watering.
Yeah, that's my term.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're all right.
There'd be a 20 by 20 shade structure, which would also be double as a platform for like ranger programs and things like that. Bike rack and a bench there. There's going to be pods with picnic tables around here. This is all ADA accessible concrete. The existing bus stop will remain, and the crosswalk was an addition that transportation suggested. The flagpoles for the Korean War Memorial would be, right now, they're kind of up in the trees, and they get caught up in the branches when the wind blows. So we want to put them right down here on Marsh Road where they're visible for people driving down Fifth Street. And then the Korean War Memorial itself, rather than having traffic going around the memorial, we would redesign it so that it kind of becomes a more serene place to enjoy that particular memorial. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. And one of the important things is that the bricks that are in that memorial right now have been placed in a particular order. The bricks are memorials to Korean War veterans, and they've been placed in particular orders so that, you know, family members may be close to each other or friends or whatever. So we would be very careful to leave the bricks in the same order, but we would move them to this linear pathway that walks through the memorial. And then the parking would be consolidated into one location for 51 spaces. And the interesting thing is that the current parking, the way it's distributed between two different locations, covers about 22,000 square feet. With the new proposed parking, we would have 17,000 square feet, and we would add a plus minus 6 spaces. The existing parking is about 45 spaces, depending upon how people park. With the new parking lot, there would be 51 spaces. And, drainage. So we want to incorporate elements of low-impact development into the design. So the drainage would be, we propose a drainage basin here, but rather than just having a rock-lined detention basin, we want to have something that we can plant natives in and perhaps pollinators. And then the access road to the for our staff and for public works staff to get to the pump stations out by the river, we would move that over to this side of the facility, rather than right now, the road goes right between the two historic ranch structures. And so we would move that. We would, with the ranch structures, we would put more aesthetic fencing around them and an interpretive sign talking about the history of those structures. And then I want to show you some example imagery. So an example of our trail kiosk signage that is consistent throughout the community. The restroom, this is not necessarily the color scheme that we would be using, but it's the same style of restroom. And that would include the watering stations. And pavilion, 20 by 20. Fencing, we proposed kind of a ranch-style fencing that to replace the existing chain link, which is not very aesthetic. And we think that this design would probably fit with kind of with our open space design and with the neighborhood. And then mostly the landscaping would be native landscaping. We would include rows of Sharon in around the memorial, because that is the flower of South Korea, and there is some rows of Sharon there now. We would want to incorporate pollinator-friendly plants into the design. I'm going to go back for one moment here and look at this again. So initially, we had proposed that everything would be that kind of xeriscape native landscaping, but based on public comments, we decided to add back in this section of grass. That's about 4,400 square feet of grass. And as opposed to, right now, there's about 6,000 square feet of grass, but it's broken up. So I think that this might even be more usable than what we've got. And I think that's about it. So with that, I will take any questions that the committee may have.
Start down with Jay this time. Mary?
I love what you've done with the Korean Memorial. It's just the way it is now. It's not, it doesn't honor anyone. It's just kind of stuck in this weird spot, and it just looks amazing. And I love all of the trees. What kind of trees are you thinking?
We have a proposed species list. It's being reviewed right now by Lindsay and Marina.
Right now?
Well, not this very moment.
All right, thank you.
I like it. It looks great, and I can't wait for it to get done. The Korean Memorial part of it, if that needed to be like a gathering place, is it big enough right there, right along the side of the street? And I don't know what kind of crowds that gathers. I don't know if there's ever any events there where people would be there. It's just going to be flags right out there, the back of sidewalk.
Yeah, that's a good kind of a good observation. I know that there was a gathering recently to honor a vet, and that was held at the existing pavilion, which is a little bit offset from the memorial. I think that, as a gathering place, what we've tried to design is something that's fully accessible, to, ADA compliant, and there's this little access, this concrete pad right here that provides a little bit of a gathering spot. And I think that, the fact that we're not going to have the traffic around it probably helps, and that this may be, this may act as a small gathering spot for, if there needed to be a memorial of some kind. But it's a good question, and I'm not aware of any large gatherings that typically take place there.
Do we have any concerns with the distance of the trees being planted? I know in light of the news over the summer of several trees dying, in town, is that something you guys are factoring in?
Yeah, so that's another good question. And so we, because of the issues that we're having right now, we are definitely having those conversations. Our team is, when we do this design, we are very well attuned to the problems that are going on. Of course, Lindsay and Marina and Nick Wentworth have been very involved in that. And so as we work through this design, our team is definitely considering all of that.
I have a couple questions, which shouldn't surprise you too terribly much. But one, I saw the notes on the grass, and I think that's wonderful. You put grass in there, but I would really suggest somehow you fence a good part of it and tell people not to use it for a doggy potty, which is one complaint somebody made, and it makes total sense that dogs are going to go right straight to the grass, as we all know. And so maybe there's a way in the planning. I don't mean a big old 6-foot fence, but it just kind of discourages, and a simple sign. But that's just my comment, knowing what dogs are going to do, and that's true. Who's going to go clean it up because that's a dog walking park. A lot of people bring their dogs down. Comment for that. And then the other, I saw the question, and it doesn't look like there's a lot of place to put a question here, but do you have an alternative place for them to unload, so you could say no here, but yes here?
Yeah, and that's another great question. We considered equestrian parking, but it's a pretty small location, and to do that, we would have to either take out a lot of the the proposed vehicle parking, or take out some of the landscaped areas. And so there is right now, and will remain, just a block away, an equestrian access for people that live in the neighborhood who have horses. But for people who are trailering, there are so many other better options that are unpaved, like the 5th Street Trailhead, the Hidden Meadows Trailhead. Silver Saddle Ranch is the best, and that provides great access to all the trails in the Carson River area. And then additionally, also Empire Ranch Trailhead. But then additionally, if people aren't opposed to using asphalt for trailering their horses in, there's Carson River Park and Morgan Mill. So there's a lot of alternatives.
That's kind of the clarity I was asking for, to explain that to folks. The last thing I wanted to say was, being a little familiar with parking lots on the, I'm trying to get my direction straight here. I can't, maybe south, the corner of the parking lot where there's only one single car parked, where there's a big long line. Yeah, on the right-hand side of the drawing. That car there. If that was a pickup truck, and if you really put the fence where you're going to, it's gonna curb, without a curb stop there, it's gonna take your fence out all the time. So just make sure that when you do the final drawings, there's space, either open plant space for weeds between the fence and the parking lot, and your wheels hitting the curb, which is way beyond. So you got like this. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, that's a good
They're gonna
observation.
take the fence out all the time.
I might want to add there too, I don't know, I'm sure they probably took this into consideration, but I don't know if there's a requirement for any kind of a landscape buffer zone between this use and the residential property right next door. Something like that. I know there's frontage requirements for width of landscape that are required, but I can't remember if there's anything along that property line.
Yeah, I don't have an answer to that
Well,
question
let's go to the
specifically, but I
planning
know that
commission.
the footprint of this is not larger than the existing footprint. And we had neighbors on that south side that attended the open house and were happy with the design. In fact, at the open house, most of the people that showed up and provided comment, they were good, productive comments. Most people generally liked the design and provided enough comment that we did make, a few tweaks here or there, but I can't really speak specifically to a landscape buffer in the code.
Jennifer Budge, Parks and
Well, I was
Recreation
just
Director.
waiting for you to speak.
Got my
Greg was looking at you.
my tired mind working. Greg, do you know, are we gonna have to get a special use permit when we go to construction for this?
So what was suggested by planning is when we get to 30%, we're going to do an NPR so that we can go through the whole thing and find out exactly what's going to be required as far as permitting and regulations and everything. So yeah,
So
well, at 30%, we're going to go through all
At
that.
that stage, I think that's where they'll probably identify if we need that buffer. I think that's a great question. There are parking lot requirements, but if you incorporate low impact development, sometimes you don't always, it's like one tree for every 20 spaces and all that. But
Or one tree for, I'm sorry, Keith,
Oh,
one tree for every 10 spaces.
and
you know, with
it's
the
a lot,
island.
and it creates a lot of damage, to be honest, for the parking lot. So I really like this design because I think it'll be more sustainable long term. But I think we could get those things identified and make sure that we're meeting all those requirements.
Are we're making a motion to approve this as it is, or are we going to make a motion with some considerations yet to be determined?
Yeah, Greg Berger, Trails Coordinator for the record. So no, this is discussion only just to get, to provide one more public venue for this to be shown and to get your input for comments and suggestions. And we're gathering those notes right now, and the comments that you're providing will be shared with the design team, and we'll consider those moving forward. But there is no motion.
Okay. Then can I add one more to put on your list?
Yeah.
I'm going to circle back to where the location of that memorial is. Is the memorial not, the actual memorial itself cannot be moved? That's not going to be relocated. That's designed. I mean, that right now, the existing, not the flags, but the memorial itself is going to stay where it is.
Yeah, no, we committed to the veterans that would not be moved, and there would be actually quite an additional expense because there's a couple of rather large structures there.
Okay.
So that is going to stay.
Yeah, I was just thinking if all of that was movable, I would say it'd be interesting to consider, would it be better to move it closer to the parking area so is closer to the population that might want to come to that memorial.
Yeah, no, good comment. It's not one of the deliverables in our funding agreement with SNPLMA, so it's not something that they would fund us to do. So, and we, early on, that was kind of our commitment to the veterans, that we would leave it as is.
If I recall, there's one light down there. Are there going to be any lights? No, and I don't want it lit up, but I like the dark sky, but there is one light.
Are you referring to the light that's on the flags?
Is that where it is? I can't remember. And it's like a street lamp.
There is
There's-
a light on the flags. There may have been a couple lights. One of them may be broken. We do propose new lighting, and we haven't gotten to that. We haven't gotten that far yet to know specifically what it's going to be. But there will be some lighting, and we're hopefully opting towards solar for any lighting that we have, and it'll be respectful to the neighbors. We don't want anything that's going to be bright and obnoxious, of course.
I think that would be nice to light the flag. And that's
Yeah,
it.
no, it always has been lit, and that's why the flags don't come down at night.
Anything else? One thing I was just going to add to that parking situation, the curb stops are not liked by the plow crews, so they have a tendency to rip them out all the time. So maybe there's a way in that design where they, even where on the other side, if a truck backs up, how much of the sidewalk they might take. So curb stops usually stop that too, so you'll figure that out when you guys get to some final design.
Yeah, that's a good observation.
Greg, if there's going to be curb and gutter around the parking lot, that would resolve that as well.
Yeah, we haven't got that far in the.
Yeah, that's fine. If there's no other comments from here, I'll ask for public comments for on this item. Nope. Okay, so we're at after hearing what I just heard, it's a discussion only. The way they're written up is if we decide there might be some action on the agenda, we can't if they don't write it this way. So this way, it could be discussion only. Right. So with this, we don't have to make a motion other than we made comments. So the next item on the agenda is the director's report. Updates regarding the department's projects, programs, facilities, and events, grants, status of recruitment for vacant positions, parks, MVP employee recognition program, and thank you for telling me what MVP was. I thought it was some secret thing you guys had, the most valuable park person or something. I can't believe I didn't figure that one out. Recognition program and the Board of Supervisors action items. Jen.
Thank you, Jennifer Budge, Parks and Rec Director. I'll be super fast. I know everyone wants to go home and go to sleep.
Nah.
So I know I do. I just wanted to mention the Parks MVP Employee Program. It's a new recognition program that we created as part of the department. We created an email address, so if you have good customer service from an employee from the department or just a great story you want to tell and share, you can email parksmvp@carson.org. We also have flyers up with a QR code. You can pull that up really quick and just really quickly from your phone be able to share your story about an employee, and then we'll have prizes and rewards for employees as well. We just recognized one employee at the Parks and Rec Commission earlier this month, and it was a really great story. He helped an elderly citizen in need at Sunset Park and potentially could have saved his life, so it was a really heartwarming story. So we did a little recognition for him at the Parks Commission meeting. So that was for Stephen Tucker. So just wanted to acknowledge him, and obviously our employees do amazing things every day, and just wanted to provide an avenue for the public to be able to share those stories with us. And that's it. Thank you.
Because you know that we read all the other item that was part of the agenda. So, thank you. Next item on the agenda is the Senior Natural Resource Specialist and Open Space Manager. That's a lot on a business card there, I think. Activities related to projects managed by Open Space Division, including updates within the Carson River corridor. Lindsay and Marina.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Lindsay Boyer for the record, Open Space Manager. Yes, I know everyone is tired, so I will keep it brief. Just a few things from my end, and then I'll turn it over to Marina. As far as the Carson River Master Plan process, we are currently in the writing phase, which is very exciting. So it's been a big group effort to write all of our various sections between all of our team members. We're hoping to have a draft available maybe by the joint meeting, but probably more realistically by early 2026. So that will be forthcoming soon. Water rights, still plugging along. We'll get there someday. No substantive updates. We're kind of in the lawyers reviewing lawyers' work right now. So we're excited to be slowly moving that process forward. That's been the theme of tonight, is that good things take time. As far as the Sea Hill flag is concerned, you all might have noticed it's no longer there. So we, working with the Sea Hill Flag Foundation and the Carson City Parks and Recreation Foundation, we did an event earlier this year, had many volunteers up on the hill decommissioning that flag. It was a great day. A lot of people came out. We had the ROTC there. They were a great help. Lots of community members came out. So the flag is now officially decommissioned, and the Sea Hill Flag Foundation is in the fundraising stage. And then ultimately the plan is to have the new panels and the new flag back up either by Flag Day of next year, which is in June, or ultimately by July 4th. And I know I sent out an email to you all about potential donations, and if you're interested in having a piece of the flag, that can be,
It's who's missing
that can
on
happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then just lastly, the Mexican Dam Portage project. We're excited that this is going to be kicking off here soon. We've been working through getting all the permitting and all of our ducks in a row for that project. And so construction is anticipated to begin in November. To build out that portage, which, as a reminder, will be it'll be a takeout location above the Mexican Dam that'll allow people to safely portage around the dam and get back onto the river and float from there. So we'll have updates and pictures as we go along. And with that, I'll turn it over to Marina.
Do you know if there's any plans up at, I forget the name of the bridge on 395, where you'd unload your watercraft and walk down to the river? If anything's ever going to be done there that makes it more official with this NUS takeout?
As of right now, I don't know of any official improvements that are happening upstream, but we're hopeful that with some of the work that we've done in our section of the river, that will encourage some improvements upstream as well.
Douglas
Cradle
County.
ball.
Yeah.
Cradle
Cradle
ball.
ball. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Marina Lovejoy, Senior Natural Resource Specialist for the record. I have a couple of fun projects to share with you all that have been in the planning phase for like a year now, and they finally come to fruition. We're getting plants in the ground. I've talked about this a little bit before, but we were awarded a $15,000 grant from CWSD, and that was to put about 1,000 plants in the ground along the Empire Ranch Trail along Eagle Creek, actually. I was a little bit more optimistic when I wrote my staff report. I was thinking that I would have nearly all 1,000 plants in the ground, but it takes a lot longer than I thought to put 1,000 plants in the ground. So we have about 400 planted so far. 200 more will get planted this week, and then we have a couple volunteer projects, volunteer days over the next
container,
month.
bare root, or?
From container stock, yeah.
Okay, containers. Was it from the nursery?
From the Washoe Nursery,
Yeah,
yes.
cool.
Yeah. So that's ongoing. We'll get some volunteers out there. Let's see. Another thing I wanted to mention was we hired a new part-time staff member over the last couple months, Travis Navarro. He has been helping inventory cottonwood trees along the river, assessing beaver damage and where we might need to do some more wire wrapping or sand and paint mixture on there. And he's been invaluable, actually. I intended to have him come on just to help me with this project, but I've put so many other things on his plate because he's just able to handle them and he finds great enjoyment from them. So I want to thank Travis for his effort. Another restoration project that got started last week. I may have brought this before you all before, but we've been researching ways to restore the Prison Hill burn scar. If you remember, that fire was in 2021, I believe. It burned about 170 acres, and it's now, predominantly covered with cheatgrass. And so one of the ways that people in the Great Basin restore cheatgrass invaded areas is to apply a very specific herbicide that targets those invasive annual grasses. And so I had the opportunity to partner with someone who was looking for some test plots. And I was like, I got a lot of test plots here with cheatgrass. So we had a drone fly over 4 1-acre areas and apply that specific herbicide mixture. And so I'll monitor that over the next several years. We'll see what the results are, see if it's feasible to apply that on a larger scale, like, the whole burn scar. It might not be. Line of sight with a drone is really tricky. But there's lots of areas with cheatgrass in Carson City. So there's, potentially other locations that we can do this type of restoration project. Let's see, I guess that's it. I mentioned the volunteer appreciation event on Saturday. I'll put a plug in for that again as well. It'll be either at Silver Saddle Ranch or here in the lobby, and we'll post that on our social media and our website. That's all.
What a dramatic change. Community center or Silver Saddle?
Well, both have their advantages, I'll tell you that.
Well, there's a barn there at Silver Saddle. So it never rains in Nevada. That's a bummer that that's happened. Just a curious question, because I know everybody wants to get out of here. But cheatgrass, I was told, is not invasive anymore because it's endemic.
Well, I can clarify a little bit. It's not considered noxious. It's not on the state's noxious weed list, and that's because it's unrealistic now to require that species to be controlled because it is so prevalent. But it's still highly invasive, and I want to do something about it. Restore that habitat.
That wasn't to discourage you, it's just out of curiosity.
It encourages me more.
Test plots to determine if other plants can take root and grow just with the herbicide. That herbicide is targeted specifically for cheatgrass.
That's a great question. So the herbicide is going to target cheatgrass and some other invasive annuals as well. And then about in a year, we're going to go in and seed heavily. So in the absence of cheatgrass, can beneficial plants establish? That's the test.
Curious, you always kind of wonder what happens after a fire. Was it not heavily seeded, or it was seeded maybe with some ryegrasses or some other things? Or
Yeah, the burn scar specifically was heavily seeded. Gosh, I don't remember the exact figure, but it was about seeded at a rate 2 to 3 times normal because we really wanted those beneficial plants to establish. But the problem there was the cheatgrass wasn't addressed. And that's pretty common across the Great Basin, is you can seed all that you want, but that cheatgrass is just so good at what it does. It establishes quickly. And so desirable plants really have a difficult time establishing. Yeah.
That must be where the word cheat came from. Any other questions? Good reports as always. Somehow Greg got out of his report tonight. So next on the agenda, update from the Foundation for Carson City Parks Liaison. It was a good report. I don't know who was going to give it because it's okay. So we're going to pass on that. Everybody read it in their package. I love what the Foundation's doing now. If you've looked at the history there, there's a total 180-degree flip of really great projects going on. They're responsible for the flag thing too, so I just sent them a check for a piece of the flag today. So that report is just great, and it was too bad that we didn't able to get representation to give that. So the next thing is member announcements. So I jumped over that. So member announcements. I'll do that now. Just slot it in here. Do you have any announcements or anything you want to say, Jay? Everything's good in life. Pickleball. Okay. Mary. Okay, so I'm going to do something that I have to look it up here. I'm going to give you a history class and see who remembers this is. So I shall not seek and will not accept the nomination of the Open Space Committee for another term as your president. So what's the history there? Anybody remember that? LBJ. Lyndon Baines said that. So I'm saying that because that's true for me. So I'm just giving you a heads up. I'm not going to sit in this seat next year. So it gives you a couple meetings. I was going to do it in the joint meeting, but they don't care. So why is he telling us to go? So that's just a heads up. So you can think about leadership for this group and come next, the meeting after December actually gives you a few months there. So I can't believe nobody had LBJ ready to go on that one. Future agenda items and we were given those when there was a list of them so I had no additions because it looked like it was pretty full for the December meeting. Anybody had anything else than that? Nope, boy, we're sure getting this good. So now the last thing is public comment. We have one public that can, do you have anything you want to share with us at the end of the meeting? No, okay. Come on, Kelly. All right, well, you get an award for being patient to get through a lot of meeting here with this 3 hours of meeting. So now I'm looking for, since there's no public comment, is a motion for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
There we go. Second, we're done. Good meeting. Thank you. Lots of stuff. You guys are really busy.